Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on August the 22nd, 2017. I am your host, Game Psychologist, and with me, as always, the worst William Shatner impersonator in the world.
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we played. We're going to have another round of Pitch a Game. We're going to have a general topic, what piques your interest in a game? There's no more single-player updates coming from Mass Effect Andromeda. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Hello, Rage. How are you?
And timestamps will be in the show notes, assuming Jared doesn't forget about them.
Nah, fuck him.
Well, I sure hope not. I mean, if you want to do that, fine, but
Hey, you know what? I'll take whatever I can get.
Poor Katie.
Learn that in this week's episode of Game of Thrones. I need more people in my life to talk about Game of Thrones. Hey, anyone in our community, do you want to talk about Game of Thrones? I would love to talk about Game of Thrones.
Talk to Game of Thrones about me, but talk about Game of Thrones to me, but I wouldn't have a single clue about what the fuck is going on. Yeah, I would know about as much going on as I said coherent sentences just now.
Yeah, yeah. This week's episode was really intense, and I mean, there's only one episode left in this season and one season left of the show, so I assume that all future episodes are going to continue to grow in intensity. And after what happened this week, I think I need my own therapy session to just resolve the issues that I have with what happened. So, no spoilers. I'm not going to talk about it any farther. But yeah, it was intense. It's crazy.
Yeah, so what are the chances of this actually being what happens in the book? Because aren't they past what the book is now?
Yeah, they're past the books. They had like a sit down with Georgie boy, and he gave him like his notes for the rest of the books. But the show, in some respects, has deviated pretty far from the books already. So I suspect it'll be kind of like what it has been, the same general gist of what's going on, but not exactly the same.
So in other words, it's going to be like Full Metal Alchemist, and about halfway through, they deviated very sharply from the canon. And then, years down the line, they're going to make a new show that follows the canon.
Yeah, I've read the first two books, and the show is relatively close the first couple of seasons to the first two books.
Yeah, it was pretty close to the first one. I did watch the first season, and I read the first book. But I just I wasn't that invested to continue watching it. Because I didn't have HBO, so it was, I had to make the effort to go hunt it down. Go sail the seven seas. And I just didn't care enough.
Yeah. Supposedly, book 3, they start to really deviate in certain areas, with the general story being the same, but lots of specific characters not existing or being added changes the storyline some, and it just deviates farther and farther the more you get.
But then again, series in general, I tend to either not really care for the popular stuff or just kind of fall off. Like Battlestar Galactica. Everyone always gushes about Battlestar Galactica. I fell asleep watching the miniseries, and after that, I just didn't care. Granted, from everything I've heard about how that series ended, didn't really miss much.
Yeah. I don't know. I never finished it either. I saw the miniseries, and I watched the first 2 seasons, but I never finished the show.
I was just bored.
I want to go back and watch it. I was a lot younger when I saw it the first time, because didn't Battlestar Galactica come out, or the remake or whatever, in the early 2000s?
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know, depending on the exact year, sometime between like 10 and 15.
Damn, you make me feel old.
Old man rage there, so I should go back and watch it.
Fucking kids with their fidget spinners. And I did think of you last time I was at the grocery store, because at the checkout, there was a fidget spinner. It was an Emoji Movie fidget spinner from Disney. And I just saw that and thought, damn, I feel old. There's absolutely nothing about this product that has any redeeming qualities to me.
Well, I'll have you know I haven't played with my fidget spinner in 2 weeks.
No, because you've been obsessing about something else.
Indeed, I have. And is that our segue into the games we played this week?
I do believe so.
Alrighty. Well, Rach, you usually go first. Would you like to continue that trend? We're not going to alternate this week. We talked about it beforehand.
Yeah, we gotta make that be special, you know?
Basically, it's just going to be for weeks where both of us have lots of games.
Yeah, particularly whenever there's weeks that we don't have a lot to talk about any particular game. So, speaking of not a lot to talk about, well, I have two of those, but the first one, maybe not. We'll see. My first one was also my Sunday sampler for the week. Questr. This is a game I love in theory, but despise in execution. Yes, it's one of those. At the heart of it, it's a personality-driven RPG party simulator. And it's all run by this in-game version of essentially Tinder.
Okay.
You swipe left or right on prospective party members, and you build out your party, and you go do shit. Pretty awesome concept, don't you think?
That sounds pretty interesting, yeah. It's a neat hook.
It's completely luck-based.
Oh.
I mean,
just like Tinder.
I mean, it makes sense that, party members would lie, not be who they claim to be. But they could lie about literally every single detail about themselves. And at least as far as I figured out, granted, there's no help screens, there's no fucking tooltips. Oh, and also, to add on to the technical issues, I had the game crash multiple times, including twice during my recording sessions. The volume sliders kept resetting every single time I loaded up the game, so it would blast my ears because the default sound settings were set to 11 apparently. But if someone lies, getting back to actual gameplay and getting off my rant about the technical aspects of this game, if someone lies, as far as I could tell, there's no way to get them out of your party. And because the party morale is a major factor on how your chances of your success at the end of the adventure, if you have someone that lies and absolutely hates everyone and everything about your party, you are fucked. And on top of that, if your gold, your cash runs into the negative, which it actually can at the start of an adventure without a game over. If you end an adventure and negative cash, game over, you start from the very beginning. And it's just not a very fun mechanic. And on top of that, it has a lot of... I can't even say memes because their idea of humor on this is YOLO.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that like 5 years old now or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, it's
well past its prime.
I mean, it's an older meme, but I guess it checks out.
But I see what you did there.
But yeah, it's just, internet humor, fine. I mean, it's not like I hang out with someone that will say, well, that's what she said, and use it as a punchline for a joke.
That's what she said. I don't know why she'd say that, but that's what she said.
But I can't really discredit for not enjoying the humor. But the fact that everything is luck based, everything is just based around this mechanic that just doesn't make sense. Granted, I could be completely wrong about the game. The gameplay could make a lot of sense if I knew how to fucking play the game, but I don't. Oh, it's just so frustrating because I saw this game, I saw my review copy come in and looked at it, and it's like, oh, this looks really neat. And, it fell flat on its face from the start. Oh,
right.
So disappointing. I've bonus pitch a game. This game only executed well.
Okay. Fair enough.
Granted, this is in the early access phase, so it could improve. And there's things on the roadmap that actually should have been in the beginning, like persistent characters. Because, that's something else, is that all the characters are randomly generated, and the generation has, they said 20 personalities, but I'm going to say, unless, they unlock extra ones toward, in the medium and hard difficulties, I would say about 10. So you'd get repeats over and over again. As a matter of fact, I got 2 of the same characters. I mean, verbatim.
Like, name and everything?
Name and everything.
Dang.
Granted, I didn't get it in the video. I got it in my test runs. And it's just... I swiped left because, his alignment didn't fit in with the party. Granted, not sure if that really matters, but what the hell. And, he showed back up. I mean, what the hell?
I guess he just really wanted to come back and see you.
And on top of that, there's something else, is that, that I didn't really get into all that well, is that, everything is based on your party's personality, which includes how events play out, which... it does have the, internet humor. And, maybe that's just me being old. I don't know. But because of how the party is generated, if it's basing off of, let's say, the classes, and one of your guys lied about his class, and, you suddenly have 2 stewards or 2 merchants or, 2 squires or whatever. They both have the exact same responses to the events. I mean, verbatim. And on top of that, events always play out the same way. So, let's say, there's a bandit event, which there is in the game, but using it as an example. And I know that the merchant response is the correct one. Well, if I have a merchant in my party, that event is a non-starter now because, I immediately go to the merchant. There's no, I wonder if I use this or this. It's a guaranteed thing. And that's another thing that kind of takes the enjoyment out of it. It takes all the mystery of it. Trying to balance out your party. It's just more of, fill out your party with different classes and, make it so they don't try to kill one another.
Right.
Very disappointing. Okay. Very disappointing.
Yeah, it sounds like this is a good idea, but it needs to be either fleshed out some more or explained better.
Oh, and also this is
fixed.
And also this is a $15 game. This game does not deserve even half the price tag, at least in its current state. And they are talking about in the early access of maybe raising the price.
Yeah, this sounds like a $5 to $10 game. Yeah. Even if it was working correctly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was going to be a $10 game max, but 15, no. At least in its current state. Very disappointed about this one.
Indeed, sounds that way. All right, what about your next one?
My next one, Onirim. I didn't very actually heard the pronunciation of this. This is my next 2 are mobile games, but this is the mobile version of a tabletop game, a tabletop solitaire. And it's, like I said, it's essentially a version of solitaire where you're trying to match various cards to open doors to before your deck empties out. It's a very simple game with a it's actually plays pretty quickly. Usually a game of this lasts approximately 5 to 10 minutes max, but that's me being very, very cautious. But the idea of this is essentially trying to go through your deck or trying to finish out all the doorways to escape the labyrinth or, it's a story for, trying to explain the game mechanics.
Right.
You're trying to open up all the doorways to be able to escape. And to do that, you have to discard, in the base game, there's 3 expansions available. One they give you if you sign up your for an account with them, which, why not? And then 2 other ones which are like $1 a pop, not very expensive, which I haven't gone through. or yet. I may. I don't know. And I enjoyed this one. But to unlock the doors, you either discard 3 cards of the same color, but you cannot discard a card that has the same icon. So if you look at the screenshots of it, there's like keys, there's suns, there's moons. If you discard a moon, you cannot play another moon. You have to play a card with a different icon on it, even if it's a different color. You could also unlock doors by having a key in your hand and drawing the corresponding color door. And you could unlock the door immediately like that. But you also have to watch out because in the deck there are nightmares. And if you draw a nightmare into your hand, you either have to discard your hand, you have to discard the top 5 cards off the deck, while retaining any other nightmares that you draw or any doors that you draw to go back to the deck and shuffled. You could pay a key that you have in your hand to just immediately discard the nightmare and be done with it. Or you could reseal one of the doors. And there's a lot of strategic elements of, what doors you open when, or, what ones to shoot for. And you can also manipulate the deck in certain ways. For example, if you discard a key, you're able to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, order them in any way you wish, but also the 5th card in that order is discarded. And this is a way that you can get rid of the nightmares without having to deal with them and discarding additional keys. There's a lot more strategy to this than I was really expecting going into it, and it's a lot of fun, actually.
That's good. So a well-developed mobile card game?
Yeah, well, this is a mobile version of a tabletop game, so it already had the development cycle there.
Right.
And from
never heard of this game before.
And from what I understand, it's plays a lot faster than the tabletop version, just because there's no setup and no having to go through everything.
Right. So one of my favorite things is just like a general aside about playing board games on mobile or console or
tabletop
PC.
Simulator.
Yeah, it just goes so much faster because you don't have to deal with all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, this is just a card game, so there's not that much there. But it also handles all the rules for you.
Right.
But it's at least the base game, and I did play a little bit of the first expansion, which changes a few things. One, it adds an extra door to each color. There's 4 different colors, by the way, which I didn't really mention. And each color has 2 doors. And once you fill out all the doors of that color, you don't have to worry about unlocking more doors. So those become kind of dead cards, but at the same time, you could use them in other ways, such as you could just discard a card of that color to immediately draw the next card, because you always have 5 cards in your hand. Or you could use it to, get if you have a bad icon, you could just swap the icons by discarding a single color card, and then be able to start up your sequence. But the changes to the mechanics, if I recall correctly, adds an extra door to each color, and it also makes it so that if you discard a certain card, I haven't played it enough to really understand which cards are which. It does the same thing as the key, where you look at the top 5 cards, but in this one, you keep one card, if I recall correctly, and put it on top of the deck, and the other 4 go onto the bottom, which adds a lot more strategy to it, because you get barrier cards that you don't want a lot further down your deck.
Okay.
That's the main thing about this game, is it's the strategy, but also the deck manipulation. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out if you like your solitaire games.
I occasionally like a good solitaire-esque game.
And this is what that is at its heart. Yeah, I mean, looking at the store page or the Google Play page, it's everything is suggested around it is solitaire of some sort. And that's what it is solitaire. And the expansions are pretty cheap. I think they're $3 for 2.
That's not bad.
And they both change the game somewhat significantly. I mean, the free one is changes it somewhat drastically to begin with, and that's the smallest of the expansions, if I recall correctly.
Interesting. I think I'll add this one to my list of games to check out at some point. Like next time, maybe I go through my phase of playing a bunch of mobile games. I'll probably put this one on the list.
Yeah, well, this and the next one are just basically things I tried while I was rendering, because my render days, especially since we record Sundays, are broken up into 2 parts now. Because I used to just render all day Sunday and be done with it, but can't really do that if I have to play Divinity. So
right, you can render for a while, but you have to stop eventually.
Yeah. So this is my answer to the expanded. Well, it's not really expanded, but since it's broken up, I don't really have a good Saturday play session.
Right.
So it gives me a chance to go see if there's anything worth playing on mobile. And hey, I found something.
There you go.
And
all right.
Moving swiftly along to my last mobile game, Deep Town. This is essentially my answer to Jared being just a dirty miner.
Oh, I've played this game before.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. I've treated it more as just like a virtual pet that I check on every so often than something I play full time. You're controlling essentially a robotic mining colony, and your mineshaft has a case of the Cthulhu's.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that it's kind of hard to really talk too much about because it has a lot of kind of idler mechanics, but also a little bit of cow clicker where you have to, especially whenever you're working the shaft.
Heyo. Also, that's what she said.
At certain points, you have tentacles come up. Waiting for Jared.
It's not really a that's what she said, but that's what she said.
Well, if you're into that sort of thing. But besides, that's what she said. If that doesn't fit, you still use it because it's you.
Fair enough. I'm not super into tentacles, but I'm also not really against tentacles. If they come up, I'm down for it. If they don't, I'm fine with that too.
So you can take it or leave it.
Yeah,
but to be fair, usually when there's tentacles, you don't have much choice in the matter to begin with.
Very true. Usually they're forcing you. I just kind of let it happen, though.
Well, can't rape the willing.
Wink.
But anyway, should we get back to the mine shafts?
Yeah.
There's not a lot to talk about on this because it's all kind of just idler mechanics, and that's something that I've really noticed with management games is that they're broken into really 2 camps. The cow clicker, sit there and just tap, 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 tap. And this, which is more just set up everything and then check on it again in a few hours. There are games that break this mold, but this is the general how things work for management games for mobile, it seems like.
Yeah, how far have you gotten?
I'm trying to think of exactly how far. I know I'm in the where everything is kind of bubbly now.
Okay.
I think I've defeated 2 of the bosses, and I'm working my way down to the 3rd.
Okay. Yeah, I got a lot farther than you did. I like it. It gets a few more mechanics. I mean, it's all kind of in that idler space where it's just like
the boss fights, the elders, are the times that it has most game-like where you actually have to pay attention to it.
Yeah,
and everything else is just you sit it up and check back on it once or twice a day, particularly to get your drones to get back to work.
Yeah,
which I'm renaming mine as Carbles. I have Jeb and Bob right now.
Nice, your little drones that automatically can go collect your resources and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jeb is does all the mechanical work, and Bob is running around collecting things.
Yeah, the reason I stopped playing actually was I hit a bug, and I mean I don't know if it's been fixed or not now, but the game would I would lose progress. Like I would do a bunch of stuff and I would collect things and I would go to sell it and I would do that and then I'd exit the game and when I'd come back, it was like I hadn't done anything. So I'd constantly be collecting and selling, and like 1 out of every 5 times it would take, but I just got frustrated, so I stopped playing.
Yeah, that's not good. Obviously.
I mean, it's been months ago that I played this game, so I don't know. Maybe they fixed it, but it was annoying, and I stopped playing it, and I haven't gone back.
Yeah, one thing I have noticed about this is that if you don't want to pay, they kind of force you to watch a lot of ads, especially to get some of the rare resources for certain buildings.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of those things that you start the ad, then you put down the phone and go drink your coffee.
Yep.
I did download a couple of the games that they advertised. Those looked interesting, which I'll probably be talking about in the next few weeks. Occasionally, an ad for a game actually makes it look decent. Granted, then there's others that they played that, there was a tower defense that, they showed the defense working perfectly fine, making it look awesome. Well, for a tower defense game, I'm not a huge fan of tower defense, to be perfectly honest. And then a fucking dragon comes in and wipes out everything. It's like, okay, so a dragon comes in and wrecks everything. Well, outside of being a Game of Thrones reference, I guess, doesn't seem all that interesting to, just have your shit wrecked.
Yeah, probably not. Usually not.
I will say that the story of the game, Deep Town, looks kind of interesting. They're giving little tidbits of, okay, you're on Earth and shit's fucked up. And they're giving little hints of, what happened here and there. Granted, I've gotten the first cave system completely explored.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how far I have to go for the next bit of story, because that was the most interesting bit to me.
I had completely explored the second cave system. I don't know if they've revamped it, but it was like 100 and something levels deep. I unlocked the second one. I want to say like 150.
Okay, so I'm probably not that far off, because I think I'm in the low 100s now.
Yeah.
Because I'm just at the point where, instead of tentacles, it's, just almost bubbling, boiling ooze.
Yeah.
Granted, it still instantly kills any robots that I have mining.
Yeah. Have you got all of the like special abilities or all of the tools or whatever they're called? Okay. Yeah.
No, I just got the upgraded mining laser that requires the amber blasters.
Oh, okay.
And I honestly never use it.
Yeah. I only use the mining laser specifically to fight the bosses, because it's pretty good. When you get some of the other ones that you can combo together for bonus damage, the mining laser basically sets off every single combo.
Yeah, I do wish that there was more ability slots, because how it's set up is that while you're mining, you only have 4 abilities active or available, and one of them is your mining laser, whatever in the first slot, and it feels very limited, particularly since you get a lot of abilities.
Yeah.
And once you hit a boss, you have to swap everything out, swap your robots out, because they can't fight the boss for whatever reason. They instantly die.
The big robots can fight bosses, the big stompy ones.
I still have mine instantly die.
Okay. Maybe they've changed it, because the big, like the little robots, the little drill bots would get killed immediately, but the big stompy bots would last to get a few stomps in before they died.
Yeah, I had mine pretty much instantly die, and there's also a bot that heals that, it instantly dies as well. I'm not sure if it's a bug or if they changed things or what, but I just basically combo the Nano Cloud, which is just a giant AoE, the mining laser, the fire blast, and the ice blast.
Yeah.
Knock some health down, and wait till it's about to heal. Freeze it, knock the ever-living hell out of it. Then once it's unfrozen, set it on fire, just like you do in Divinity.
Yay, fire.
And just try to out-DPS it until the freeze comes up, and that's usually what kills it.
Yeah.
Well, I've also been working on leveling up my primary abilities. Well, it's turned into kind of a virtual pet for me. I'm not sure if I'll continue playing it or not. It's one of those things that it's interesting, and I want to see what they do with the story. Assuming that they do something with the story, it sounds like I'm close to the second cave system.
Yeah, I don't know how many cave systems there are. I didn't get that far. I don't know. I might go check it back out. It was one of the few mobile sort of clickery style games that actually stuck with me for a little while. But once I hit whatever that bug was, I just couldn't keep playing because it basically made progression impossible.
I'll just have to sit there and play it for the next few months straight.
Yeah.
Simple. I mean, it's a mining game. It's perfectly natural for you.
Absolutely.
Speaking of mining games.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to talk about No Man's Sky again, guys, because I played it for... Ooh, I should go look at my Steam and see how long I played No Man's Sky for in the last week.
Hang on.
That should be...
Hang on. I'm getting the cards out.
Oh. Okie dokie. Recent activity.
And no, I'm not joking. Actually, I have my playing cards out.
I believed you. Let's see. View all recently played. I have played 22 hours of No Man's Sky in the past week.
Yeah, I think we need to schedule an intervention.
Yeah. It's been good. I'm really, really enjoying my time
I'll be
playing
contacting Katie tonight to get her to slip you something.
Okay.
You'll wake up tied to a chair. And not even the sexy way.
Sounds kinky.
There'll be tentacles.
There are tentacles in No Man's Sky. In some places. I just...
Well, it depends on if you like them in some places, I guess.
Wink. But, I mean, I've just been playing it a lot, trying out all the new features, been working on building my base, exploring the new and revamped mechanics some more. And I had the moment, like, I posted a tweet, was it today or was it yesterday? With the screenshot that I took, and I was like, guys, I have a problem. It's hit me. Or whatever it was I said.
Admitting that you have a problem is the first step.
But I landed on this moon, actually. I was looking for a specific resource to complete one of the base building quests, because right now there's a bug where that if you move your base and you haven't completed the quests, you can't complete the quests for one of the base givers unless you move your base back to the original position.
Sorry, I'm just going to sit here stunned. No Man's Sky has a bug?
Basically, you'd have to rebuild your base exactly the way it was to complete the quest. So I'm like, well, I'll just finish my base building quest so that I can move my base and focus on other things. And I was looking for a resource. I landed on this moon, and it looks I landed when it was on the dark side. Yeah, dark side of the moon. But landed on the dark side of the moon. I was doing some stuff, looking for some resources. I was in a cave, and I come out of the cave, and it's now like daytime, and it turns out this is like a paradise type planet with like fields of grass and beautiful trees, and it's planet that it's orbiting around in the background. I just went, holy shit, that's gorgeous. So then I got out the screenshot tool and like manipulated things and spent way too long making what I thought was like the perfect picture. It was nice. I just wanted to say, like, it's still holding my interest. That's the main reason that I left it on the list to talk about. Like, even exploring the mechanics a bit deeper, because like I said, I've been doing base building and exploring, like, the story that exists in the game, or that is in the game now. I found someone named Artemis, and he's completely new from the newest update. And he's got his own quest line that he can give you if you pursue him, and it's counted as one of the main quests, so been doing that a little bit.
Now is it your romantic interest, or do you have to do something to unlock that?
I wish he was a romantic interest. But anyways, it's still good, guys. It's still good, and I know that Kyle got it. I was hoping to hear from Kyle this week about how he felt about No Man's Sky, as he purchased it based on my recommendation. So, Kyle, you should report in next week about how you like No Man's Sky.
Well, I did talk to him briefly, and he mentioned something about plutonium. I just said that he should rip it off from some Libyans. I mean, nothing bad ever happened from that.
Oh, plutonium is everywhere now. It's all over the place. I do have to say, I dislike the farming system until you can get the the greenhouse dome, you have to like feed materials to each of your like little farming trays. They've got little lamps on them and stuff. You have to keep giving them materials. Although I think it's funny, you can give them plutonium as one of the materials to grow your plants. I'm like, I'm growing radioactive plants, guys. But it's kind of frustrating because every time I leave and then come back, it's like, well, shit, all of the trays ran out of energy, so I gotta feed them. And farming is a pretty big part of getting some of the sort of high-end base equipment. I mean, you can go harvest all these materials naturally in the world, but it takes a long time, and you got to go all over the place. So, I'm working towards a dome, a nice greenhouse dome, a couple of them from my farms. That way, I don't have to constantly feed them energy. Some plants you can plant outside, like some plants can grow in any biome, and then some they have to be in a specific biome that they're meant for. Like there's plants that only grow in frost biomes, and plants that only grow in desert biomes, and etc. So I've been planting all the ones I can outside because you don't have to feed them energy. But I'm on an Arctic tundra planet, so there's only a few plants that can grow in the tundra. Also, my kid is enjoying watching No Man's Sky because he's a little bit older he's a year older, so he can interact with it even more than he did. We went around petting animals the other day because you can do that now. He's like, "What are you doing, Daddy?" I was like, "Well, I'm petting these animals so that I can collect their poop." Because one of the first plants
I thought that was a different game.
Nope, you have to collect animal poop. And he was like, "How do you collect it, Daddy?" And I was like, "Well, you feed them and you pet them." And he's like, "I want to pet the animals." So we walked around pressing E to pet. It was great. Had a good time with my son. But that's all I have to say about No Man's Sky. Nothing revelating. It probably won't be on the list next week or any other weeks until I hit like some other major milestone to talk about.
Or we just schedule that intervention.
Yeah, or that. So I'll move on from that to another game that I talked about last week, but that I've played quite a bit more and have gotten more into, which is GTA 5 again. Do you want me to talk about nice stuff first or bad stuff first?
Well, as long as you don't spoil anything.
Yeah, I won't spoil any story stuff. I'll go negative first.
Okay.
Fuck the online mode. It's not about the grind. It's not about any of that. Even like the shitty player behavior, I can deal with that. I can't stand the load times. I don't understand why it takes so long.
Console parity.
It takes about 5 minutes to load in initially, which sucks, but if it was a one-time thing every time, it's like I'd start the load, go to the bathroom, get a snack, all that jazz, whatever.
Come back, you're dead, and you're loading again.
And then be done with it. But after that, like, everything takes forever to load. Like, respawning is fine if you die, because it just plops you back where you were, and it doesn't have to load anything. But anytime you try to load an activity, or after you return from an activity to the main map, or, the open world portion of the map, it's just 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Okay,
I'm going to have to ask, do you have this load to your SSD?
I didn't at first, and I thought that might be part of the problem. So then I put it on my SSD, and it made no difference. I looked it up, it's all server-side stuff. They do a lot of shitty peer-to-peer stuff, and it doesn't like to put people in servers unless they're full, so it spends forever trying to find a server that's like nearly full to stick you in so that it gets a full room. I say servers, but I mean instance. Puts you in an instance that's full. So unless you're doing loading in with a bunch of your friends, where it will tend to just give you your own instance right off the bat because you're grouped up with your friends, it takes forever to do anything.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question, and this is going to sound like a snarky question, kind of being a smart ass, but I'm being serious here. With as many problems as you have with loading and everything, how the fuck is this as popular as it is?
I don't know. It's that way on the consoles. Like, whenever I went to my client's house that plays it, and we've played it, I always just assumed it was that bad because it was on console. But I don't know. I mean, once you get into a set of activities, as long as you stay in the activity set, you're fine. So if you're like, I want to go grind out money for an hour, once you join your first game, as long as you stay in that, it's not too bad. But if you're going in and out of activities, or if you're trying to find, God forbid, you try and find a specific activity and do something other than quick join, you'll never get a game in that. You'll spend forever loading. And Lord help you if your connection drops for even half a second, because then you'll go into loading purgatory. I don't get it. Like I said last time, like, if you're just gonna run around and do bullshit with your friends, it's fine because you're not having to deal with all that stuff. You'll get dropped into your own instance, and you're just gonna be hanging out all the time, so it's fine. But I don't know. Maybe some of the late activities, like the gun running stuff and the CEO stuff, maybe that's different. I have no idea because I'm not there. And honestly, I probably never will be because I'm not going to put that much time in the online mode. But, I mean, basically, I just wanted to earn enough money so I could have some cars and stuff if we ever did it for a stream night, or, you know, somebody wanted to play with me. Then I could just be like, all right, well, I've got my car and I can run around and do bullshit with you. But it's stupid. It's really stupid. I hate it.
Do you think we just have not enough patience?
I mean, I'm genuinely a very patient person, but it's wasting my time.
I'm just trying to figure this out, you know, how it's so popular. I mean, this is going to be a non sequitur, but what the hell? I mean, this is VGL. I was watching a couple of streams of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds because, I was curious about it. Especially since it nearly overtook Dota 2 today as the most popular game on Steam, or the most played game at the time. I mean, it was damn close. It was under 40,000, which, doesn't sound that close, but when it's, total players over 700,000 for the day, that's a lot closer. I watched a few streams. It's like, okay, so they ran around for 15 minutes into random houses and then got shot by someone that they had no chance of seeing. Right.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I really don't.
I mean, that doesn't sound fun to me, but I don't feel like that's wasting... Like, if I was playing that, I wouldn't feel like I was wasting my time.
It's not more the connection of, okay, how is this supposed to be fun? I mean, I imagine that, there is the tension once you get past the boring run around randomly loot buildings. But, getting there just doesn't seem all that interesting. I mean, it's part of the reason why I didn't get into Plant Side was that, I ran for 15 minutes, got shot, and was sent back to spawn that was halfway across the map.
Yeah. The biggest problem I have with it is I feel like I'm wasting time. Like, if the activities rewarded you a lot more, and it wasn't so much a grind fest, I could probably put up with the load times because I'd feel like I was getting something out of it. But waiting for essentially 10 to 15 minutes to load in, and then find a match, and then load into the match, or the activity, and to only get, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000, which doesn't really get you much outside of like the very basic stuff like I talked about last week, it just feels like a waste of time.
$20,000, that's a clip of ammo.
Yeah, one magazine.
Oh, no, that's just the clip. You still have to fill it. That's another mission.
Okay. But,
you wanted actual good bullets? You didn't want just the full metal jackets? You wanted the hollow points? Oh, that's another mission. Or just, take out your credit card and swipe it, please.
Yeah, I just don't understand how I'm with you. I don't understand how it's so popular. It's just all bullshit and time wasting. Like, if I wanted to do that, I'd go find the grindiest MMO or free-to-play game and do that instead. At least the load times would be better. So that's the bad stuff. The good stuff is the single-player mode. I've played through quite a bit of the story, and the more I play, the more I like. To keep it spoiler-free, as they continue to intertwine the whole, we've got 3 main characters, and so we're going to switch between them in missions and things, it's great. I'm echoing what I said last week. They did that really well, and they continue to do it well and use it to do interesting things in the story, and use it as a way to break up certain scenes that could be monotonous or boring as well. Like, it's done really well. and they use it to great effect. I did my first heist, which the heists are awesome. That was so good.
Yeah,
so
the heist in GTA 4 was... well, I wouldn't say it's the best mission, but it's one of the best.
Yeah, like this. So there's... I'm not sure how many heists there are in the story mode. I know there's several, but... so the way that they work is that you set up a job, and then you're given a couple, 2 or 3 different ways that you want to pull off the job. And so you choose which way you want to do it, and then you have another set of missions where you go prepare. So, you go get special weapons or steal trucks or whatever it is you need to complete the job. And then after you do that, you have to pick the people that are going to do the job with you. You put together your crew. And that was really, really interesting, because it's like you can choose like shitty people, but you don't have to pay them very much. Or you can choose good people, but you have to pay them more, a higher cut. And they can make a really big difference in how it goes. So for the first one, I was like, well, because of story reasons, I need as much money as I can. So except for this one person who the guy's telling me is like, if we pick someone bad for this, the whole mission could like fail, or the whole heist could fail. I'm going to pick shitty people for the other positions, and then like one good person for the position that he says that we need. And one of the shitty people like fucked up and crashed his getaway car, and we lost a whole bunch of loot. And if I had just picked someone that was more competent, they probably wouldn't have crashed, and it would have actually cost me less money to pay that guy his higher share than it was for the guy who crashed the getaway vehicle and lost a bunch of money. I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if there's like that's always going to happen. I don't know if there's like a chance that they'll fail and I just, lost the dice roll or whatever. And I need to do a little bit more research into it. But I thought that was pretty neat. Like, it really matters who you pick to do the jobs, and you get different dialogue based on who you pick, which was pretty neat. Like, I looked that up online. Because different characters react. Like, when you pick good people, they're like, yeah, that was great, you're awesome. If they pick terrible people, they're like, that guy was a dumbass. What the hell was he thinking? So the heists are not only interesting and, like, really well thought out multi-layer missions, but they require a lot of deep thought, which is something that I wasn't really expecting in a Grand Theft Auto game. So it was good. They're very enjoyable.
Are you sure to let Patty just, go absolutely batshit?
I'll just send Trevor in there. Just let him kill everyone. I'm not sure who my favorite character is. The 3 main characters, Franklin, Michael, and Trevor. Franklin's not a bad character, but he's definitely my least favorite than main 3. Michael was my favorite last week, but Trevor is an interesting fellow. Very interesting. I love to just, like, swap to him randomly, because he'll just be out in the middle of nowhere, like in his underwear, beating a guy to death with a bottle or something. He's like constantly like doing random stuff. I swapped to him once and he was in a dress. I don't know why he was wearing a dress, but he was in a dress.
It was Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess. So, yeah, GTA, the single player mode is awesome, and the multiplayer mode sucks dick.
Well, how do you compare these characters with the other main characters? Tommy, CJ, Nameless Mute. Actually, wasn't it Clyde or something? They revealed that name in, I think, San Andreas. Or, of course, Nico. I think Nico is probably my most liked character, even though, he's in probably the most irritating of situations.
Yeah, I always really liked Nico, and they actually mention him, like, not by name, but it's another one of those, like, references for the first heist, because, like, you're looking for a crew, and they're like, well, there is this one guy out in Liberty City who's been making waves, but nah, I'm not going to call him out here. It's like, you're talking about Nico, aren't you? But anyways, compared to the other main characters, I like them better than every main character that I remember from previous GTA games, except Nico. I like Nico better than Franklin. And I think Nico's probably on par with Trevor for me, and now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, Michael's still my favorite character. He just reminds me a lot of Tony from The Sopranos.
Yeah, really since I can't really do the GTA 5, I think it really depends on the situation between Nico and CJ, because I actually really liked CJ.
Franklin reminds me a lot of CJ. Like a more I don't know.
CJ was just in a very bad situation to begin with.
Yeah, that's kind of how Franklin is
but
portrayed.
CJ is probably the most human of the GTA, the GTA characters I played.
Yeah.
Because he's a deeply flawed character, but but he also is kind of a psychopath.
Yeah, Franklin's not really a psychopath, at least not at this point in the story. I mean,
that's
definitely Trevor's department in GTA 5.
Well, I always remember this one particular mission in GTA San Andreas where the construction workers, remember this? It was in, the analog San Francisco. He buries a construction worker in an outhouse and covers it with concrete because they were doing catcalls at his sister.
Yeah, that's definitely a Trevor thing in GTA 5.
That was like his most psychotic moment. But outside of that, CJ was a pretty likable character overall. Even though I think my favorite GTA character in that game was actually Woozy. You have no idea who that is, do you?
No, I don't. I didn't play. I played San Andreas, but I didn't play it a ton.
He was the blonde leader of the Triads.
Okay.
He had some great little moments. Like he was always talking about how lucky he was, but later in the game, he's playing blackjack with a couple of his underlings, and he just keeps asking for cards. And you could see, he's way over 21 at this point, but they're lying to him to boost his confidence. And it was just a nice little moment for him.
Yeah, I guess I want to talk more, but I'm not gonna spoil any story stuff, so I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, there's some very neat story stuff and things that happen.
I want to play the single player at some point. I just have no interest in the multiplayer. And after you talking about, go and make a sandwich, then you go pick your game mode, and then you go eat the sandwich, go to the bathroom, wash your hands, come back, and you're halfway loaded.
Yeah, I was.
Do you think they needed a couple other online modes, to break up the monotony of all the loading screens? You start the loading in one online mode, and you swap to the other one and start playing that.
God, I don't know. When I turned it off, I haven't turned it back on since. I got I was going from doing jobs to back to just the overworld. I was like, well, I'm hungry, so I got up, I went to the bathroom, I made a sandwich, I got a drink. I went and looked, it was still loading. I ate my sandwich, and I looked down, and it had been like 9 minutes. And I assumed that I had gotten disconnected or something in the middle. Who knows? Maybe it was taking it that long to load. And I said, fuck this, and I hit Alt F4 and force close the game. And I haven't went back to the online mode since.
Sheesh.
I don't like feeling like my time's being wasted.
Yeah, you hang out with me.
But I love you. I'm spending time with you, not wasting it. So yeah, I'll move on from GTA to my next game. Which is Interstellar Transport Company.
Oh boy,
so
here we go.
For our first pitch a game idea, I pitched basically this game. I was so giddy last week when I found it, and I purchased it immediately. Like, when we recorded, I think it was releasing into early access the next day, and I bought it for, I think it was 10% off. It's like $17, $18, something like that. And it's pretty much literally exactly what I pitched. You start in the year 2050, and if you play like the default game, you start in our solar system. And there's a small colony on the moon and a tiny colony on Mars, and you're in charge of a shipping company. And you have access to a few different rockets and a few different spaceships, which have really slow, inefficient torch drives. And you set up trade routes between the colonies on these planets, and you get them, bodies, I guess. Get them going, build them up, and then they'll eventually get larger spaceports, and you can use bigger ships. And as the economies of these bodies grow, They might branch out and start their own colonies, which you're able to support. You can directly, or you can fund colonies. It's yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's got some issues. For one, the game is pretty much impossible to play by yourself. By that I mean, like, the logistics of doing this are insane, and it's designed to be played either in multiplayer with other people or against AI in competing companies. But you can turn all that off and just play it completely solo. But within an hour, if you're really, really busting it, trying to expand as quickly as possible, you'll have like 200 ships just crisscrossing across the solar system, and the like your home planet, which, you know, I like to play with the default, so starting our solar system, Earth, we'll start colonies on Mercury and Venus pretty quickly because they're close.
That's actually impressive that they start a colony on Mercury.
Yeah, Mercury and Venus both have really, really high resources. They're like almost uninhabitable, so they're really difficult to support logistically. But if you can pull it off, you can get massive amounts of resources from them.
Well, there's actually a concept of a Venus base that I saw that was really interesting.
Isn't it where that they like float it?
Yeah, on balloons.
On balloons, yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, and if you could get the altitude right, a stable temperature, a very comfortable temperature. That you just need, well, just a slight pressure suit, mostly just because the atmosphere of Venus is like instant death.
Yeah.
But it gets you above the just insane greenhouse effect. But then again, the greenhouse effect, that's completely bullshit.
Yeah. Anyways, also Titan and Europa are pretty quick to be colonized if you've got a good Earth economy going. And then from there, I mean, there's a whole bunch of moons for Jupiter, and there's a few for Saturn. I think Uranus has got 2 moons that they are colonizable.
Not without a drink first.
But the logistics, like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and the Moon, are pretty easy to work with because they're all close to each other, relatively speaking. But as soon as you start sending colonies out to Europa and Titan and the other orbiting bodies of the outer planets, then you get a fucking logistical nightmare. Because the early game ships are so slow, or the faster ones have so low cargo capabilities that if you're trying to do it completely by yourself, which I was doing to learn the game and just play with the mechanics and stuff, not having to worry about accidentally losing because the AI beat the shit out of me when I didn't know what I was doing. The logistics of managing that by yourself are a nightmare, and those colonies quickly die out if you don't latch onto them immediately and basically save them, lose a whole bunch of money to keep them alive long enough, because everybody starves to death because they don't get any food. So then the colony disappears and you have to restart it. But so the game is really, I mean, like most of these games, you've got your early stages where you're just like mostly sending like rockets or like one-use rockets, which are super cheap, or very small transport vessels back and forth that are also relatively cheap. Then in the mid game, as colonies get larger and they get larger spaceports and you can actually afford the bigger transport ships, you swap over to those, and so instead of having 10 small ships, you have 2 big ones. And then the late stage of the game, when you get hyperdrive or warp drive, it's warp drive, and can go colonize other star systems, then you have to deal with the fucking logistics of mining. I'm not sure if they're gonna get sued for this or not, but they use dilithium crystals to make warp drive fuel. So mining crystals and making fuel is a logistical nightmare by yourself.
So in other words, the game is built around multiplayer, which I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. One of the biggest issues is just trying to manage everything. So it's got all of the basic stuff there, but a lot of quality of life stuff that I'm used to from more modern transport tycoon type games isn't there. Like, for example, route management is a nightmare. You can't select, like, you can select a route, and it's got some very basic rules you can apply to it, but you want to be using these ships to go to as many destinations as possible, and that's pretty much undoable right now. Point-to-point routes are the only way to make money, because you just can't set up proper rules so that your ships aren't wasting tons and tons of time traveling around with no resources, or taking resources to planets that don't need them. And then also, on top of that, you can only select each ship individually, and when you've got 200, 300 ships cruising around a solar system, it takes, I mean, you're just going to be searching in that menu for forever.
Sounds like you need an air traffic controller.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I suggested to the dev, and that most people have suggested, is like, we need a better way to sort these routes out. Because when ships start needing to be replaced, there's no auto-replace function or anything. You have to go in and find them on the list, manually sell them, and then buy a new ship and put it on the route. And that's frustrating as hell. And it's got some odd performance issues, or I don't know if it's a bug or what, but whenever you open the ship menu, I think when you do it, it starts individually tracking every ship instead of just displaying their icon on the screen. So you'll go from a nice smooth 60, you open the ship menu, and suddenly you're tracking the stats of like 300 ships at once. It drops to 2 frames a second. If you pause the game, it's fine, but you have to remember to pause every time before you open the ship menu at a certain point. Otherwise, your game just becomes unplayable.
A quick question. Well, I was just wondering about the map. Is it a static map, or it's actually orbiting?
No, it's actually orbiting. Everything is on a flat plane in a solar system, but there are...
I mean, to be fair, in real life, the plane in the solar system is flat enough that it doesn't matter for sci-fi level ships, which these would be.
Yeah, but every plane in every solar system is flat, at least that I've seen so far. I mean, it if you do the randomly generated galaxy map, things might be different, but like I said, I like to use the non-random one so that you start on Earth every time. But yeah, they do orbit, and they have different orbital periods and stuff. So sometimes routes take a lot longer than they would otherwise, because, you know, you have 2 planetary bodies on opposite ends of the solar system instead of, you know, effectively right next to each other. Which is another reason that working with the outer bodies is a logistical nightmare. So it's got a lot of promise. If the dev continues to be as active as they are on the forums, and seems to be taking criticism and suggestions really well, if they continue to do that and continue to work on the game, I see this being a really good game, kind of filling the sci-fi transport tycoon niche. There's already been, I think, 3 major updates to the game, fixing a lot of bugs and issues that people have had, and a couple of performance increases already. Interestingly, this game was made in Unity, like in the free version of Unity. So it's nice to see a good game, like after we've had a couple of discussions about Unity, it's nice to see a good, solid game being made in the free version of Unity. I have no idea if the assets are pre-purchased or are custom. I think they're custom, particularly the ship assets. And there's a lot of nods in there to popular sci-fi things. Like there's a ship that looks like Serenity from Firefly, and there are a couple of ships that look reminiscent of ships from Star Wars and Star Trek, so like different transports and stuff. Not exact copies, but close enough that you're like, that definitely was inspired by, you know, this ship from this series. I'm sure there's a few others that I'm not recognizing, but I haven't gotten too terribly far. Time progression is pretty slow in the game, so even after playing it for like 10 hours, I'm only in like 2060 something, and I've only really just started interstellar travel, and I fucked that up real hardcore. So I'm gonna have to cancel those routes, and that first colony is gonna die because I got my dilithium fuel production chain messed up, and I don't have enough fuel. So my ships can go out, but they don't have enough fuel to come back.
That seems like a bad thing.
And the system where the first colony was set up, none of the planets have dilithium on them.
Whoops.
So I can't mine dilithium ore in that system and make fuel. So I did not sponsor that colony. That one popped up. I'm not sure like what the chances are of Earth founding another colony are in another solar system, but they did. And so I was like, well,
depends on how much we fund NASA.
I just went with that, and it was a mistake. I should have done a little bit more research into the neighboring systems and found one that had dilithium crystals. But, you know, you live and learn. It's a good game. I'm enjoying it. I'm probably going to stop playing it for a while because I don't want to burn out on it before it gets more feature complete. But like I said, as long as the developer continues to have a positive attitude and takes on criticism and suggestions and works on it, I like where it's going. I love me some sci-fi and I love me some transport tycoon type games. So, it's all good. Next game on my list is Warshift. This was a game I purchased on the Steam sale and I talked about before. And I played it a couple of weeks ago. And what it is it's a game that's half RTS and half third-person type vehicular combat. And it's interesting. It's pretty good, but it suffers from the jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none syndrome that often befalls these type of games that try to tackle two very different play styles and put them together in the same game. The RTS section is pretty basic, and then so are the third-person action sections. So, I mean, you never feel like anything's overly complicated, but also you never really feel like you're doing anything super skillfully. Basically, every mission comes down to establish your foothold on the map, then set up automatic build and move routines for your factories so that they pump out units and send them to a specific place, a la like a MOBA or a tower defense type game. And then you take over the commander unit, which are the ones that you can control directly, and just go in with your troops and fuck shit up. I mean, they've got some really neat art designs, and there are a bunch of different commanders that all behave differently. Probably my favorite one is it's like a T-Rex, and it morphs between an aircraft and a walker that's a T-Rex, and it has like laser arms, and that's pretty badass. There's some more normal ones, like there's an APC that has the special ability to drop troops wherever you are, and it has like an infinite supply of troops.
It's a clown car.
Yeah, there's a big-ass tank that can turn into a gun emplacement that you can control. There's like what do they call them? Dreadnoughts, which is, you know, a big-ass ship. That one doesn't really transform, but you can control it and fly it around, and it's basically invincible.
Well, depending on how many things you hit, it can transform into a flaming wreck.
It could, yeah, it could. There's space combat, which I haven't really gotten to. I did the tutorial for it, but I haven't gotten to it in the main missions. There's quite a few main story missions, and they take... The first ones go by pretty quickly, but once you get into sort of the middle part of the game, missions can take 30, 40 minutes. Just having multiple objectives and things to do. Still, every mission boils down to, honestly, like, establish a base, build units, push forward. Establish a new base, build more units, push forward. But, I mean, it's done well enough that I don't get bored with it. It's just nothing special to write home or talk about. This is also
the big gimmick is that it's two different genres.
Right, that's the big gimmick. Two different genres mashed together. It does have an interesting sort of upgrade system. You have a mobile HQ in almost every mission that you can return to, and this is the only place where you can do it. You can repair the commander unit and upgrade the commander unit and change its loadout of weapons and things like that. Each commander unit has got different weapons that can be equipped, different special abilities. I mean, they've got like one core ability that's that thing's gimmick, but you can change out a whole bunch of secondary abilities on them to more fit your play style. So, I mean, it's a pretty good game. It handles well, but, you know, suffers from jack of all trades, master of none syndrome. I mean, I paid like $7-8 for it. I think this game is definitely worth that. I mean, if you could get it for $5 or less, it's definitely worth your time at that price. But I honestly don't think it's good enough to warrant its full price tag of like $13. This is like a $10 or less game. So, I mean, pretty decent, but yeah, nothing to write home about. It looks good. Looks good. I think this is another Unity game too. It's not...
Unity has become pretty much the standard for the indie, subgenre of the engine to go to.
Yeah.
Which for good reason. I mean, there's a lot of assets out there for good or ill. I mean, depending on your view of asset flips and using pre-baked stuff, which is not a sin of itself. It's more when it's lazily done and it's obvious.
Yeah, I don't care if people use the pre-made assets, just if they do something, like you said, are they lazy with it, or they actually do something interesting with it?
Yeah, like going through some of the review stuff, I'm starting to notice, the same things popping up time and time and time again, asset-wise, and it's starting to grate on me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, this is pretty clearly a Unity game. I don't see any assets that I recognize. I'm pretty sure this is all custom stuff. But, yeah, I mean, there might be some basic stuff. I don't know, rocks, trees, that sort of thing.
Oh, no, it's that rock again.
All of the vehicles are pretty unique. I mean, there's dinosaur, tank, APC, the dreadnoughts. There's, like, monster-type units, like, I don't know, Cthulhu-esque looking monsters that you control. It's crazy. It's crazy visuals. That's probably, honestly, the most interesting thing about the whole game.
Now, when you release Cthulhu,
style.
Do you have to censor the battlefield for what he does to the troops?
Yes. Oh. But, yeah, it's, pretty decent. Not a lot to write home about. Nothing too special. Fun game, though. Worth it for less than $10, in my opinion. And then the last game that I played this week is Slime Rancher.
Speaking of farming poop.
Yeah. Plorts. I've got the Steam link on here, but I actually played this on Xbox. It was one of the games for gold for July. I mean, it's a good game that just isn't my kind of game. It's a very simple, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's not exactly a farming game. It's not exactly like a Minecraft-esque
It's almost like a ranching game.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you do in Slime Rancher is you have like gotten on a colony ship and gone out to like the far outer rim of the galaxy, and you have
obviously
a ranch.
Things work out better in that rim world.
Yeah, and you take over a ranch where that you farm slime plort, which is basically their poop, and you have to go out and find slimes. Like there's an exploration aspect. You go and you find slimes. You bring them back to your ranch, put them in pens. You have to grow food to feed them. Different slimes eat different kinds of food, and you sell the plort to make money to upgrade your farm, to go find more slimes, and etc. etc. And supposedly there's some pretty interesting stuff that you can explore and find. The game does have a really cute visual style, but it's very simplistic. Like I mean, I don't know if this game was specifically designed for kids, but it definitely feels like it was designed for kids. The only reason that I'm still playing it past the little bit that I initially did was that my kid loves it because he thinks the slimes are super cute. But it's got a couple of neat mechanics. I mean, it's not like super basic. Like there's combination slimes that you can make. So there's, what do they call them? I don't know. They're big slimes. There's a specific term that they have for them, but
Fort makers.
If you feed one type of slime's poop to another type of slime, then it takes on the characteristics of both types of slime. So you can use that to help with some of the.
So the plorts are mutagenic?
Sure. But it takes on the characteristics of that slime, and then it grows like double in size. So there are certain slimes, like the slimes that have the plorts that are worth the most money, have the most specific diets. But you can take, for example, like the pink plort, or the pink slime eats literally anything. They'll eat anything you feed them. So you can take like a golden slime, which is a really high-level specific slime, feed it a pink plort, so now you can feed it anything you want because it's got the characteristics of both slimes. And then it poops out, like every time you feed it, it poops two plorts, and one of them will be pink and one of them will be gold. So there's some interesting combinations that you can make. There's also, like, I forget what they're called, but they're like black slimes that just eat everything, and that's if you feed a slime 3 different plorts.
Or if you feed them after midnight.
No. Some of them like to be fed after midnight. Like there's these little firefly slimes that glow in the dark, and they get more happy if you feed them at night.
Please tell me their poop glows.
It does.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
It does.
I'd be disappointed if it didn't.
And then you also, like I said, you can grow food. So you go out in the wild and explore, and you can collect different types of fruits and vegetables, and create gardens where you grow those types of fruits and vegetables so that you always have them on hand. You pretty quickly want to automate the whole process. You can upgrade each of the pens with a plort vacuum that just sucks up the poop automatically every once in a while, and then you just go by and collect it. And then with
an automatic
feeder,
pooper scooper.
Right, an automatic pooper scooper and an automatic feeder. That way you don't have to constantly babysit them. I mean, you have to come by and fill up the feeder every once in a while and collect all the poop. Otherwise, it gets too full and you can't do that. But there's a whole research system too. Like you can research upgrades for your vacuum gun, which is probably like the vacuum gun is one of the reasons that I dislike the game the most. It's a neat concept and I like it, but it only has 4 slots.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people complain about the inventory.
Yep. At any point in time, you can only have 4 different items, and you can't have 2 slots on the vacuum have the same item. You can upgrade the size of the slots a bit, but it's so frustrating, like, to go out and it's like, well, I need this thing. Oh, there's an interesting thing, but I'm looking for this, so I can't pick up that interesting thing. You're constantly leaving stuff behind when you go explore, making more trips than necessary, even around your own farm, because you'll fill up the vacuum and then have to go dump it all in wherever. Like, there's various things that you put in various places. I mean, inventory management, all that jazz.
You know what you need? What? A donkey slime.
Oh, yep. What?
A donkey slime. A slime that just has a backpack and, is following you around.
That would be nice. It can be upgraded to 5, but the 5th slot only takes liquid. So that's pretty useless for almost everything. Yeah. So it's just... That makes it so frustrating, because you can't go out and explore for very long, because you'll fill up all of your inventory. So if you find anything interesting, you can't pick it up. So you're constantly running back and forth.
Yeah, hearing about the inventory actually made me take this off my wish list.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things that inventory is a very key part of these type of games. And be able to do proper inventory management, taking that away or making it a chore, no. I'll just go play Stardew Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't, love it. It's still pretty simplistic. I mean, once you kind of got that core loop, that's the whole game. And you get the whole core loop figured out in 30 minutes. But it would at least be more bearable to play, and exploration might be a little bit better if I wasn't constantly out of inventory and also out of stamina. Your stamina recharges really slowly. And your default movement speed is quicker than most first-person type games, but for the amount of distance that you need to cover, because the world is pretty big, it's too slow. And as far as I know, there's no fast travel or teleportation system, so you have to run everywhere. I mean, you might discover that later on in the game, but I mean, even the first starting area... So
it's wasting your time.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't even be playing it if my kid didn't like it, but we sit on the couch together and play it, and he likes it.
Or just get him a plushie slime from, Dragon Quest, and be done with it.
Yeah, he calls them monsters. He doesn't call them slimes. They're all monsters.
Well, it's not untrue.
That's true.
No, untrue.
True.
Third base.
Indeed. So yeah, that's Slime Rancher. I mean, I think this game is mostly directed at kids, and nothing wrong with that. It just gets boring to adults. And we're going to talk about a general topic. Rage came up with this one, and it took us a few minutes to come up with what we thought was a proper name for it. But what piques your interest in a game? Basically, what is it that draws your eye to something and makes you want to actually explore it farther? Because especially with Steam Direct, there's feels like a million games going up every day, and both of us with large libraries and access to Keymailer and things like that, what is it that makes us want to play a game?
Yeah, this is something I came up with, mostly because I was starting to see a kind of a split between games that it's hard to really describe. It's art is a very subjective thing, but there's a certain quality or a certain cohesion of art that I know some of the bottom of the barrel Steam Direct games just kind of lack. You know, it's the best way I can describe it is, did you ever have like the little car game that was just a car that was on a little piece of plastic and it ran over a moving background? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That type of idea where it's the actual moving piece that you're controlling, your player avatar, is completely disjointed from the rest of the scene. Then you have everything else. And it got me wondering, what is eye-catching? What should we look for in a game? And I think the first thing that I really pay attention, well, outside of just the general style and how cohesive everything is actually the text of the store page. Particularly the first little marketing blurb, in the upper right-hand corner. But also the main text of the store page itself.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a huge stickler for grammar unless it's a visual novel and it has typos in the first 5 minutes. But something that is very obviously badly translated is a severe red flag to me.
Yeah.
Something that relies on internet culture is a red flag to me. Something that tries to hype itself up a little bit too much. You're talking about how it's the essentially making it sound like it's the greatest thing to ever live. That's a red flag.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah. The biggest one for me is when I look at the blurb for a game, like in that respect. So that is too is one of the things that I always check whenever I'm looking at a game. Like, do I want to add this to my wish list or buy it or request a key for it? Is are there spelling mistakes? Because if there's spelling mistakes, like really obvious spelling and grammar mistakes, either it indicates poor translation or this is just like,
or just sentence fragments in general.
Yeah, like someone's just throwing something up there to like try and make a buck on it. And so I become much less interested on it, regardless of what the rest of it looks like or sounds like. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm heading over to Keymailer to give you an idea of some of the winners I've gotten. So that's actually good. It figures whenever I'm looking for it, I'm not finding it, huh?
Yeah, so whenever I go to look for games because I mean, I've got a cajillion games on my wish list. And the things that I look for a game to add, art style is one thing, but that's usually not a make or break for me. I'm just as likely to pick a unique or, somehow special, interesting art style versus like an RPG Maker game. Because art and graphics are not very important to me. I mean, they might be very important to other people. I'm sure they are, but they're not super important to me. I have themes that I go for. Like, obviously, I've said it, and we've already made reference to it today. Like, I'm a sucker for sci-fi games. I can forgive a lot of garbage if you've got a really nice, good-looking sci-fi world and sci-fi theme. I'm all about that. So even games that look shittier or look pretty shitty to me, I'm like, well, that's a good sci-fi aesthetic. I might could do that. I'll put that on the list and wait for it to be really cheap, or request this sci-fi game on Keymailer because it looks good. Huge red flags for me though are spelling errors in the description, or fragmented sentences, or sentences that just don't make sense because, like you said, indicates either a poor translation or lack of care because someone's just like trying to shove something out there. Other red flags for me, indie games that are multiplayer only.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to get into genres and key phrases in a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a very big one as well. I would also say an excessive use of bullet points, particularly things that shouldn't be bullet points.
Do you have an example of that? Because I like bullet points.
Well, I'm going through my list looking for. Okay, let's see. Well, here's one that talking about how for difficulties ranging from casual play, that's fine, but talking about how be able to quick travel, that's a bullet point. That shouldn't be a bullet point. That's a key game mechanic. This isn't exactly a good example. But talking about how achievements are a huge factor of the game, I think is a red flag because there was one game that Steam actually had to impose a limit on achievements of 5,000 achievements because they kept putting achievements more and more and more into the game.
Wow, that's intense.
Did you hear about that one?
No, I didn't.
And that may be an actual red flag as well. Overuse of achievements.
Something that's definitely a red flag for me as well is, or maybe not a red flag, but something that makes me be like, I'm not so sure. Like whenever a game's like, this is a completely new and unique take on whatever genre. And, there's been lots of pretty good games that have said things like that, but I'm always like, is it really a new take? It's pretty rare when you find something that's completely, new and different and all that jazz. Things that I like to see are concise, well-written sort of descriptors of a game. They don't go on for too long. Like, you can get everything you need from the first paragraph of the description. You can continue to read farther if you want more information about the game, but in order to make a quick decision, like the first paragraph is succinct and gives you all the basics that you need to know. Because that shows that a developer has thought about, who they're trying to market this game to, and what type of people are gonna just kind of cruise on by, and who might be more intrigued by that first paragraph. Other red flags for me: lack of screenshots and or trailer videos. And then also, like, really bad ones, like trailer videos that are shot with, like, Bandicam.
Oh, if there's a watermark from the recording software, no.
Yeah. And
I'll go as far to say, if there's the Steam overlay popping up, that's also a severe red flag.
In the trailer?
I've actually seen that a couple times as well.
I've never seen that before.
Actually, Monday Night Combat had that in one of their trailers.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm just going through the Steam new releases now, and I would say a lack of just screenshots that don't show anything as well. That's another big red flag to me. Screenshots that are overly dark, for example. I've seen that a few times, just trying to make the requirements that you have to have screenshots, but they don't want to show the game, so they make the screenshots exceptionally dark, so it's essentially black. Huge red flag.
Yeah. Or actually just being black. Just having a...
like we had that one earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag. But also, something that makes me take pause is something that's too good to be true. Too pretty, especially for a game that, it's a little suspect. Something that's maybe a bull shot.
Right. I'm pulling up the Steam page for Tech Wars Online too.
Oh boy.
I just want to see what this looks like. With the game as bad as it was, I can't imagine that it was very good.
If I recall correctly, it was a special type of ugly on the screenshots.
Yeah, the screenshots for Tech Wars Online 2 look terrible. So does the trailer. It's got a decent enough descriptor, though. Yeah. But it's got a really bad about. It's not very succinct. Doesn't really do a good job telling you what the game is until you get pretty close to the bottom of it. Lots and lots and lots and lots of information. Oh, here's one that's I always find annoying. They put like smiley and winky faces in it.
Oh, emojis or emoticons or...
Yeah.
Did you know that you could actually have emoticons in your Steam's your game name. I actually ran into that a while back. A game that you literally cannot type the name of on your computer.
Okay. That sounds really stupid for multiple reasons.
I have a feeling it's more one of those things that a Steam engineer it just allowed it to go in. It never thought anyone would actually use it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Something that I think is really important is names. I mean, you don't have to have like a super amazing, fantastic name. But I mean, if your name is really the name of your game is really shit or super generic, I'm not as interested as in it as I would be.
Well, especially if it's something that kind of just gets lost in the crowd.
Yeah,
I'm looking here here's a game called Edges. Looks like it's some sort of runner just based on these screenshots, which and the trailer doesn't exactly do much to sell the game either way. What is this? Some sort of sperm simulator?
Well, there's a whole bunch of games that have Edge in the name.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of games that have Edge in the name.
But that's something that would just get completely lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Bleed, loading. I'm just looking at the upcoming games on Keymailer. Those aren't very interesting names. I'd probably skip by those.
Bleed was a fairly well done indie game. It's on Keymailer right now because it's having its console release.
Okay.
So that's a bad example.
I mean, I didn't know that, and the name Bleed doesn't sound interesting to me. Neither does the screen or the...
Okay, another red flag. This is more aimed at Steam Direct games, but a game that has its sequel just a couple entries down below the first game in the sequence. That's the thing I'm noticing, is that a lot of these indie devs are throwing out... Well, there's one... oh, shoot, I'm blanking on the name of it now, but there was 5 iterations of it within the week.
Dang.
I mean, that's telling me either, this game is complete shovelware, or the dev doesn't care enough to, try to space out their games. I mean, even if the game is good, the fact that there's 5 versions of it already kind of puts me off of it.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a real winner for you. I'm gonna link this to you. This is just absolute trash. There you go.
Oh, Booty and Buns? I saw that earlier.
Yeah. Ugly, ugly game.
Yeah. Real ugly. All them big titties. Yeah, I have no idea what this is, but I requested a key for it and thought, what the hell? If I get it, why not? But I would never spend money on this garbage.
Or how about... I would say another red flag would be something that's overly memey, just in general.
Yeah, I'm completely turned off by that stuff.
I mean, the easy target is, of course, Trump, and there's a lot of Trump games that came out in the last few months. But I'm just looking at great esports manager. It's Kim Jong-un. Or Kim Jong-un. I mean, that's a pretty big red flag to begin with.
Yeah.
Or also something that has just a ton of DLC is also a huge red flag for me. I mean, load up the page and there's several $100s worth of DLC.
What about early access? Do you consider that a red flag, or...
Early access is something that I take on a case-by-case basis. It really depends on, first of all, what they say in the early access box itself. And also just their news and how often they've updated. And also, if I'm extremely interested in the game, particularly if it's a more high-dollar game, I'll go to the message board and start looking around there to see if they're communicating there.
Okay. Something that's very personal for me, but if a game looks like it's a horror game at all, I don't I don't give it a second look because I hate horror games.
Well, for me, horror games is off the list, but also open world crafting survival.
Oh, those are like crack for me.
Particularly ones that have a focus on online.
Yeah. Although, honestly, I've got so many of those games that I actually enjoy and have played. They're becoming less and less interesting to me. But still, every time I see one, I'm like, ooh. But now I'm having, like, a thought, like, 5 minutes later, like, I don't need another survival crafting game, do I? Do I really need this?
And, of course, as you mentioned before, multiplayer only, particularly, and something else for me that wouldn't be for you, well, possibly, is local only. That's a non-starter. That's immediately off.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people there to play with, but I don't. So.
Yeah. Trying to think of other things that I just like. I'm either sucked in by or completely turned off by. But I think I've most of my
something
list of things.
Something that is an obvious mobile phone port is suspect. It's not an immediately turn off, but something that it has to be done really well. And the problem is that there's a lot of very lazy ports from particularly Android phones over to PC. They put it on PC, charge about $5 more, and that's it. It's rare to see something like Tiny Trains. We mentioned that a couple times already, where they put the effort in to rebalance the game, to take away all the microtransactions and all the gameplay gaps that creates, because that's a lot of what mobile gaming is a grind to get past those paywalls.
Yeah. That's true. I'm a little bit, I think, more forgiving in that respect than you. But I do, like, if I'm on looking at PC games, I'm pretty much turned off by anything that's like an idle game. Yeah. That's something that goes on my phone, where that if I have 2 minutes, I can go check on my idle thing and then go do something else.
Yeah, like I mentioned with Deep Town, it becomes essentially a pet.
Yeah.
Oh, dear God.
At this point, I think games that turn me off too are things that, like, I mean, I joke about this, but games that try and exclusively sell themselves on sex pretty much turn me off at this point. Just because it's like, I mean, if your game's not good, like, I'm playing your game to enjoy a game, not to jerk off. If I'm gonna do that, I'll go watch some porn or something. I don't need to play your game to get horny. And like,
there's a difference between a pure porn game and something that titillates.
Yeah, like if a game is fun and enjoyable and it's sort of based around a sexy theme, that's fine. But I don't want to play a game that's just like, hey, do this thing for 2 minutes and get some anime boobs. It's like, I could just Google anime boobs in 3 seconds and have millions of better images than what you've got in your game that looks like garbage and controls like crap.
Here's an example of what I was talking about. Well, this is a horrible game to begin with, but this has like 2 or 3 immediate red flags for me. Something that is purely built around mini games to start with. This has the bullet points that shouldn't be bullet points.
This is terrible. This
screenshots that just are eye rape.
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell? I could only imagine this person's colorblind. That's my only expectation.
This is a minigame based rage game. That's its little blurb in the box.
It's not a game for rage, though.
I
mean, what the hell is this? The gamer challenge. The challenge is be able to stomach this game.
Something else that's an immediate turnoff for me are VR games.
Well, I don't have the hardware, so it's non-starter.
Well, I mean, I don't have the PC hardware to play VR games, but it's not even that. Like, just so many VR games right now are exactly the same thing. And whenever I do
some sort of little gimmick or an experience. Which I think that's why I view VR still as a gimmick, is that they're all almost like mobile phone games right now, where they're built around messing around for a few minutes and that's it. Doing something kind of neat, and then you're done. But then again, maybe VR, at least this generation of VR headsets, they're not made for long-term use. So maybe they're trying to work with the limitations there. It's hard for me to really tell.
Right. I mean, whenever I do want to play a VR game, then I go and I specifically seek out what are good VR games, and I do a little bit of research. If I'm just browsing through random stuff and it says VR, I just ignore it.
Yeah, I'm still clicking through the new releases on Steam, and wow, here's a game that has about half a page of just DLC following it, and it's all at least a couple bucks. Well, it's a playing game, so it's a single playing each one.
At what point do you kind of cross the line between, obviously there are games that are garbage and you just throw those away immediately, but at what point do you say, okay, this game has got enough interesting things to make me want it, or this game has got enough bad things on the surface that it's not worth my time?
Well, I think my low bar actually is a lot lower in the visual novel area, because usually, well, for one, it's a lot easier to build at least a decent visual novel, because it's just story and some art, and there's a lot less to go wrong there. As long as you're telling a pretty decent story, I'm at least somewhat forgiving. I know, weird, huh?
Yeah. Crazy. Forgiveness.
For other games, it really, I think, once again, it comes down to a case-by-case basis, because if a game I'm having fun with, that's the key thing. I mean, it has to have a redeeming enough quality for me to have fun with it. Something like, we mentioned, our favorite bad game, Cortex Command. It is a very, very rough game for me. It's very difficult to play. There's a lot of quality of life things that should be in this game, but there aren't. I still enjoy it because of the just general destruction, be able to do some crazy things, having it where you could use your drop pods as weapons, load it up with explosives and drop it on the enemy base and have it explode. Just little oddball things, little changes to gameplay that makes sense, but you don't see all that often, because it's something that I think a lot of game designers don't really consider. Be able to use things as an improvised explosive, be able to tunnel under the base and come up under it and attack a weak point of the defenses. That's something that you don't see that often, particularly in this case, a 2D shooter.
Right.
So seeing something kind of unique makes me a little bit more forgiving. But I'm more of a gameplay person myself.
Right. So for me, I mean, unless it's just absolutely, okay, this game is a no for any of the reasons that I said are hard no's. I like story and or gimmicks. I'll play something with an amusing gimmick for a while, even if the rest of it is terrible. Or I'll play something with a great story all the way through, even if the gameplay is terrible. Because, I'm a big story guy. So I tend to pretty much go with any visual novel as long as the writing is okay. Anything sci-fi, obviously. And anything that's we are a story-based game, which I've played quite a few, RPG Maker games, because those tend to have really good writing. At least, the ones that have latched on to. I mean, there's some pretty garbage ones too, but a lot of times, the writing is what carries an RPG Maker game. Beyond that, if it's not got a really interesting gimmick or really good story, I tend to have a 2/3 mentality. It would be difficult to explain, but I just have like this internal points system that I assign to games whenever I'm looking at like their Steam store page or whatever. And if you get basically like a certain total in my head, then I'm like, okay, this game looks good enough to try out for X amount of dollars. And then I'll put it on my wish list and, make a mental note. Like if this drops below X amount of dollars, then I would buy it and check it out.
Yeah, I'm just still slowly scrolling through the new releases in order, and there's trash. So much trash. It's astonishing.
Yeah. So, what makes you impulse buy a game? Like,
I'm not sure if I really impulse anymore. Mostly due to just backlog, but I will tell you bonus points. A good management game, particularly Town Builder these days. Granted, it seems like a lot of town builders tend to go on the more simplistic side, so that that's starting to fall off to just a cheapening of the genre. An interesting art style that actually looks good.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was so kind of interested in Cuphead. Was that it's an interesting art style in general, something that I haven't really seen. Granted, Cuphead looks like it's going to fall onto more of the not even Super Meat Boy-ish side of things, because Super Meat Boy is more fast-paced and it's not built around a boss rush. But it's something I still want to look at some point, but I'm not sure if it's something that I would enjoy playing at this point. But it's still, I applaud it for taking the risk and particularly putting in the man hours to be able to pull off that art style, because that's all hand animated.
Right.
Well, obviously, things my friends are playing gets at least a bonus consideration. Granted, sometimes my friends are in No Man's Sky for some reason.
Because it's a good game now. It pushes all of my happy buttons. I mean, I've talked about my sort of $5 impulse buy limit. Like, I'll try anything that looks interesting if it costs me $5 or less. And then I'll impulse buy more expensive games if they pretty much like push all of my right buttons. Like, I mean, Interstellar Transport is a really good example of that. Like, I mean, I love space sci-fi games. I love Transport Tycoon like style management games. And I had been jonesing for one. And I mean, that game could have costed $50, and I would have bought it to try it because it like pushed all the buttons that I wanted to see. Even if I couldn't have refunded it, I probably would have bought it because I'm a crazy person for that kind of stuff. I mean, that's like my crack. So, I'll impulse buy lots of stuff if it hits all the right buttons, but that doesn't happen very much anymore. As I've gotten, actually, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because as I've gotten older, or if my library has grown, because I certainly have more money now.
Into me.
I mean, I have more money now to buy games than I did 6-8 months ago. But I found myself like impulse buying less games, honestly. Although the games that I was impulse buying 6-8 months ago were, $5 or less all the time, and the couple of games that I've impulse bought now have been more expensive. Like my game purchases have tended to be more expensive. Although I think I'm buying more satisfying.
My impulse buys tend to be bundles more than anything else.
Yeah, I think what it is I used to buy like sort of popcorn entertainment. Like I wanted a new game, I'd buy something that was cheap, play it for a little while, and then buy something else that was cheap. But now I'm buying more expensive games and playing them for longer.
Yeah, I'm just still scrolling through the store page. It's kind of hard to really quantify, precisely what I'll look for, because it's very subjective on each individual game.
Right.
I do think I am a lot more forgiving on visual novels, though. I mean, that's kind of my soft spot. Even though I don't play as many as I probably would like to completion. I do enjoy a good visual novel. Only problem is that That is a kind of a downside on Steam's part, is that they tend to be censored.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have a touch in a visual novel to make it good, but it's also one of those things that sometimes sex is an important part of the story.
Yeah. Definitely. You could always just use Steam as like a discovery vehicle and then
go discovery queue?
Yeah.
Are we hitting the music?
Not yet. But yeah, you can always use it as just a discovery vehicle and then go to the websites or other places to get the visual novels.
Oh,
although it is super
Call
convenient.
of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, hugely negative reviews.
I find myself buying more games outside of Steam now. Something that used to be a huge no-go for me was if the game was on Steam or not. Like, if it wasn't on Steam, no-go. But over the last year, I've been growing my games library outside of Steam too. I mean, it's nowhere near comparable in size, but I mean, I bought Grand Theft Auto directly from Rockstar and their social club. I have purchased a few games on Origin. I've got a couple of games on Uplay that didn't come from Steam. So
I'm not buying that much off Steam, or outside of Steam, I should say. But I think that's mostly just the weight of the library generating some extra funds. I'll look at a game and see, okay, well, it may be a buck off over there or a buck cheaper over there, but this is my trading card money,
right?
So it's essentially free to me. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I'm starting to hit that territory too. My library's getting big enough, and I've got a high enough level that I'm getting trading card packs like every other week. Slowly building up funds, although faster than I used to. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. I mean, I feel like I've listed all my rules for like what completely turns me off from a game, and some of the things that I kind of window shop, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. I might check that out.
Well, here's one other thing. Kind of just a general rule is that if I look at the screenshot and I can't tell, it doesn't have to be exactly how a game is played, but have some sort of clue of what the fuck. If I don't have that, that's a huge red flag. Particularly some more of the abstract puzzle games. They'll have the screenshots and it's just no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
Particularly after watching the trailer, if I don't know what's going on, that tells me that they can't explain what is going on.
Yeah, or they don't want to.
That's something that I just remembered. Oh, that's a big rule.
Yeah.
But the problem with trying to really articulate all this is that a lot of this is subconscious. I look at something and it's like, not really interested, but don't really think about why until trying to explain it.
Yeah, well, you've got this set of internal rules that you build up that just become pretty much like instinct about games. And you can tell usually pretty quickly based on all the factors we've discussed, like, I am interested in this or I am not interested in this, and then the level to which you are. You can just get through that super fast in your head because, you've been playing games for years and purchased many games. I think you have. Unless you're like a time traveler or something. Yeah, or a really convincing liar about all the games you talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Really good at faking it.
Yeah, I just got done playing Half-Life 3 the other day. And
does it suck?
Well, it's just this guy in the orange. He just wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Good to know. All right. Are you ready to move on to our next topic?
I think so. I'm not sure if this was a really good topic after talking about it or not. I mean, it's interesting to sit down and talk about it, but it felt a little scattershot.
Every topic we do is a great topic. All right. Well, our next topic then is another one of our general topics. Like I said, we're going to be doing Pitch a Game. For Round 2, Electric Boogaloo.
The Revenge.
So, do you want to pitch first, or do you want me to pitch first?
Well, I think mine's going to be kind of a short pitch, mostly because it's based off of a existing property, and that's why I said that it probably would never leave my pitch a game list.
Okay, what is it?
And I'm going to sell it to you with the first phrase. It's a sci-fi game.
Okay, I'm in.
You don't care what property it is. You don't care where it is. You just want it.
Yep, pretty much.
Now, this property has had games before, but most of them are either dead or just non-existent, or they're not about the TV show. And are you guessing of what I'm talking about now?
I mean, there's a lot of sci-fi TV shows.
Yes,
there are
yes.
several that have had games. Is it a Star Trek game?
No.
Okay.
No. This is a property that has a TV show that was based on a movie. That the movie and the TV show are essentially two separate universes with the same characters, but the primary character has one less L in his name and is a completely different person.
Wait, what?
It's the same characters, but a different personality.
Okay, I'm drawing a blank. I'm probably going to feel dumb when you say what it is, but I'm drawing a blank.
Well, let's see. The main character on the TV series, MacGyver.
Stargate.
Yes, the Stargate series.
Okay.
There's a lot of places you could go with a Stargate game, and my idea for it is sort of a first-person narrative/shooter. Sort of the model that they used with the last BioShock game, where there's long sequences of kind of walk-around talk, with possibly some puzzle elements as well, but a lot of Stargate was also about combat. So it feels off to have a Stargate game that's essentially, just a walking simulator. So that really lends itself to either a first-person or third-person shooter. And also, the Stargate series has a lot of different settings and kind of a natural breakpoint for loading screens as well.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of a first-person kind of adventure shooter along the lines of BioShock, like I mentioned.
Right.
I would go with the Stargate 1 era and during, dealing with all the Goa'uld. Because I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't particularly care for the last season and a half, 2 seasons where they shifted from, one major bad guy to another.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And also, Stargate did really well a progression. So, of just general tech and made it feel at least somewhat realistic. I mean, as realistic as you could have a giant ring that takes you to off-world places, right?
Yeah. Wormhole on command.
Yeah, pretty much. And another thing is that the Stargate game allows for kind of a management of your team as well, sort of like how the Mass Effect series does.
Right.
So while you're in base in Stargate Command, you can also set up your team, and depending on how you want to deal with it, you could have it where you have your set team, you have your SG1 or whatever team. I mean, I would not go with SG1 as your playable team. Have them as kind of you run into them, but you're a separate team. And all the different teams have their own specialities to begin with. So it also opens up more branching places to build your story for this game. Have it where you outfit your team, set up everything, have your briefing, and then go off on your mission. And things happen, come back. And it has a general gameplay loop where it also allows for a progression of time, which I think is something that's really lacking in a lot of games, where it feels like the game takes place over a weekend,
Right. Well, I mean, that's one of the things too that you mentioned Mass Effect. One of the things I praised about Andromeda was that you really feel like time is passing as you do these things because stuff changes around you.
Yeah, this has it where, especially since there's a natural breakpoint to begin with, you could go back to the same planet that you went on a previous mission, and see that things happen. See that things changed, and depending on how interactive you want things, you'd have different choices. Impact things different ways. It's the Stargate series is one of those things that I'm shocked that it's not more popular in the game space. I know that there was an MMO that was being built at one point, but I believe the developer went bankrupt. And this was also during the time that, everything was an MMO. It's sort of like how everything's a CCG now, or MOBA. Everyone was building MMOs, which are huge money sinks. I mean, they're just money pits that, like, you wouldn't believe.
Right, yeah.
And it sunk quite a few companies, actually. Because they were trying to build MMOs because, WoW was super popular at the time. I mean, that's not to say that it's not still popular, but that's beside the point.
Right. I see what you're saying.
But Stargate got tainted with that, and they were also going to make a first-person shooter at some point, and that also fell through.
Yeah, I remember that. There were several pretty decent Stargate mods for various games, but none of them, they were like third-person action game mods, or they modded in the space assets into various games. Freelancer got a Stargate mod at one point. I don't know if it still works, but
and that's one problem with Stargate is that they don't have a lot to do in their space area. They have a few really cool ships, but they only have a few ships of each race. You only have, 3 for the Asgard, 4?
Yeah, I think they have 3 or 4 different classes of ships that you see in the show. The humans have 2, I think. Yeah.
Well, it depends on how you classify a starship, because you have the 2 types of battleships. The Prometheus class and blanking on what they called the other one.
Yeah, the Prometheus is the only one that I can remember.
But then you also had the kind of cobbled together, goggled fighter craft that the humans were able to kind of piece together.
Yeah, I remember those 2 from earlier seasons.
Yeah, and almost killed Teal'c and Jack.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the weakest part of Stargate is that any space battles, you're going to have just a couple types of ships.
Yeah,
and even the Goa'uld, they only have the big pyramid type ships and the little transports, and that's really it for the Goa'uld that I can think of. Unless you go with there's also their one type of star base, and I think Apophis also had his own type of ship, but that's a one-off.
Yeah. Then the replicants just stole other people's stuff. So
or just globbed together into this giant mass and flew around.
Right. So yeah, but I mean, space combat was never the focus of it, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, most space battles were over immediately.
Yeah, it was all ground stuff and exploration, and which I think would make for an excellent game.
Yeah, I agree.
Just like I said, I doubt it would ever get off this list because Stargate is kind of a dead franchise at this point, particularly after Stargate Universe kind of, I'm not sure, flopped or got killed. It's kind of a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I didn't have much interest in it because it's Battlegate. Great. I had no interest in this.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that sounds like a good game. I'd buy that. I love Stargate. Who knows? I heard that we were getting a revived Stargate series, like on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about rebooting the show.
Well, last I heard, that kind of got killed because Independence Day 2 flopped. It was going to be essentially either a reboot or a sequel to the movie, and completely ignore all the TV series.
Oh, good.
It was going to be a continuation of the more serious Stargate universe. That's why I said that Stargate is kind of in this weird place where the TV universe has really little to do with the movie outside of the Stargate. The character names, which Jack's name has one less L and a completely different character. Daniel was a lot less whiny and lost his allergies pretty quickly. Teal'c didn't exist. Amanda didn't exist. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping, I guess, for your game. I mean, I got a pitch come true last already, so you should too.
That would be this one.
My game that I'm picking is... It kind of crosses into a couple of genres. Like, I want there to be some puzzles, some choose-your-own-adventure elements. But I want it to be a time-traveling game, where that something has happened that has caused the timeline to get all fucked up. And basically, you're working your way backwards through time, fixing historical events until you get to whatever the event was that happened that messed everything up, and you fix that. And I want it to be a combination of like a choose-your-own-adventure game, have some puzzle elements, no combat, no anything like that. It could be done as like a visual novel or in like a Telltale style game. But I was just thinking about games that I enjoyed as a kid, and I loved the Carmen Sandiego games. And there was one where you went through time and did this sort of thing, but I want it on a much more deep and detailed affair. Like, when people play this game, I want them to learn something about history, because in my mind there's not enough well thought out, interesting education games for people, and so I'd like to see something like that. So yeah, pretty simple pitch, but I don't think I've ever seen a game quite like that, and there's been some games that have come out in recent years that tackle historical events from a more honest and graphics the wrong word, but a more realistic perspective. Like, I can't think of the name of the game, but there was one that covered some revolution in South America, and it's like you're a journalist and you're covering the events that happen, and you can choose to go for the real historical stuff, or you can doctor your articles one way or the other, and based on what you do, you get different outcomes in the game. And that's what I'd like. Like, you go back through history and you can learn what happened, or you can change things to sort of make them alt history, and you could get different outcomes based on that. And you're not exactly like told that you failed, but it's like, hey, you changed this, and now history is completely different, and here's, a potential effect that something that seems so small could have.
The butterfly effect.
Right.
Yeah, when you started talking about, a time travel game, I immediately thought of a old, I guess it'd be full motion video game that I played, back in the 90s, but it's not what you were looking for. But it is a time travel sci-fi game that involves, going to different eras and trying to piece together a mystery. Have you ever heard of the Journeyman Project?
No, I don't think so.
It would be a pain in the ass to run these days because it was 90s full motion video. But you were a time agent trying to essentially prevent the altering of history.
Interesting.
I never really got too far in it because, it was 90s adventure game, so, it was very easy to, get a game over.
Yeah.
But the idea of it was that you're an agent and you monitor history for time waves. And if one is detected, you essentially go back in time to prehistoric times where you have a backed up version of history, what your history is. Compare that to what the history that you're getting from your computers now. Don't ask me why your backed up version doesn't get changed as well. It's, in theory, according to the game, it's back so far that any potential wave wouldn't affect it, which doesn't quite gel, but what the hell. and you compare the two and find out what event changed and try to go set right history.
That sounds interesting. I've got the Wikipedia page pulled up for it now.
Like I said, it is a very, very old game. It's probably a bear to run if you could run it at all. And this is me trying to remember a game from 30 years ago now.
Yeah. Is it on Steam? Or is this a different game?
Probably a different game. Yeah, let me go look at the... No, that looks like it may be the right game. That looks familiar, the one on Steam.
The epic time travel adventure begins. The origin of the acclaimed Journeyman Project series.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't think it was on Steam.
Ha! In a desperate mission to stop a mysterious terrorist behind a series of rips in the space-time continuum, immerse yourself in a series of amazing worlds, encountering fascinating challenges and characters along your way. Interesting.
Not exactly what you had in mind, but close.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on my wish list. Looks like this one's $10.
Looks like they rebuilt. It looks like they rebuilt at least part of it to get it to run. Because I could only imagine getting the original game to run.
Looks like this is the only one that's on Steam, but I see that there were 3.
Yeah, I only played the original.
Interesting. See, I've had 2 games that have come to fruition. No. Yeah, this isn't exactly what I'm looking for, but this is pretty close in concept.
You essentially wanted an adult version of Carmen Sandiego.
Pretty much.
According to this, they're all on GOG, so yeah, that's probably as good a place as any to look for the others.
Okay. I might get them all on GOG. I've got a few games there.
Well, let me head over to GOG and look.
But yeah, adult Carmen Sandiego is where my mind was going with that.
Yeah, which this isn't adult. All 3 of them are on GOG, which is kind of funny. The first one is the most expensive of the lot. First one's $10. Second one's $6, and the last one is also $6.
Yeah, I'll have to check those out one day in the near future,
or past, depending on perspective. And since we're talking about time travel.
Yeah. Fair play. But yeah, that's my game pitch. We'll do this again probably soon, I assume. I've got 2 more now. I had 3. I'm up to 4 now. You said you had 7 ideas in total?
Yeah, I'm down to 6 now.
Okay. Sweet.
Granted, Stargate was kind of more of an abstract idea. A couple of my other ones are more fleshed out.
Right. I think your pitch was better than mine this time. A Stargate sort of adventure game sounds a lot better than adult Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah, but I think adult Carmen Sandiego has a better chance of actually existing.
I wonder what happens if I Google adult Carmen Sandiego.
Rule 34.
I hope so. Unfortunately, no. Oh, wait. There's some cheeky tush in that picture.
I mean, she has the trench coat, so naturally, right?
Yeah. Oh, the breasts are exposed for our pleasure in that picture. Not as much as I was expecting, at least not on Google. A lot of people cosplaying as Carmen Sandiego and Waldo in pictures together. I assume from cons.
Yeah, for some reason those two are shipped together. I guess, two very elusive characters. They'll meet on their travels, have a whirlwind romance. Carmen Sandiego mysteriously gets pregnant, and then the baby immediately disappears.
Where in the world is baby Sandiego?
And and now I'm just. Did you ever see the Carmen Sandiego cartoon?
No.
There was a Carmen Sandiego cartoon.
Interesting. Yeah, here we go. Where in time is Carmen Sandiego? I remember playing that game in like the 2nd grade or something.
Hang on, we're gonna have to get the opening for this now.
For what, the Carmen Sandiego TV show?
Yeah. Well, and no, I'm not talking about Rockapella. because that's kind of cheating.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. I think this is probably going to be the best copy. And it's glorious 90s kind of crap 3D that at the time was amazing. There you go. And we'll watch it together because this will make amazing podcasting.
Yeah, but I added NSFW to the end of my Carmen Sandiego search results. Yeah, that's a lot more Rule 34. A lot of Carmen Sandiego and Waldo fucking. some of it's better than others. But yeah, Carmen Sandiego and Waldo fucking. All right. Anyways, let me go over here to.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got the video pulled up and paused.
All right, let's go.
All right.
You can tell this kid's a hacker, by the way. and don't ask me why there's cartoon Egon.
Wow. Oh my god. That's terrible.
Isn't this better than Rockefeller?
Yeah.
And of course,
I mean, it's like terrible and wonderful at the same time.
Yeah. It's like
she's got a hover bike.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
How do you think she stole everything?
I guess that's it. Is she gonna steal the Statue of Liberty?
Oh, you're breaking up. You there?
Yeah, here. Oh, that's terrible. I love how she stole the Statue of Liberty, loaded on a giant tanker ship.
What's even better is you probably stole the crawler from NASA to steal the Statue of Liberty.
Oh.
She carjacked the crawler. Oh. Well, we've gone completely off base and just watched a cartoon opening.
Yep.
I'm going to have to make note to add that to the show notes. Oh. Assuming that, it's there still, because I went to add Gaming Clicker to the show notes a couple weeks ago, and it was actually off the Steam store. I'm not sure if it actually went back on. But, the 90s was a weird time.
I think every time is a weird time when you look back on it from the future.
Well, hopefully there will be a time that you can look back at this time.
Touché. Okay. Well, now that we've done that, we should go... What's a recording time? 2:20-ish. We should go and talk about Mass Effect Andromeda. No more single-player updates for Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, talking about things disappearing.
Yeah, speaking of things disappearing. So, we learned a couple of weeks ago that the studio that was working on, or the team that was working on Mass Effect Andromeda was getting absorbed by other EA and BioWare teams.
Yeah, pretty much the fate of any developer working with EA. Just getting absorbed back into the mass.
And we saw this sort of thing coming, but they officially said, basically, no more single-player updates.
This was being rumored for ages.
Yeah, the 1.1 update, which was the last major update, is going to be the last one. There's some multiplayer stuff that they just was like, hey, we've got some multiplayer stuff coming. We'll tell you more about it later. And then after that, it's done. And there's some speculation that the Mass Effect series in general is, at least for a while, done. Yeah,
they pretty much... I believe some of the wording lends itself to that theory. That they talk about all of the story threads that they had just being resolved in comics and books instead of a future game. Which is a huge red flag for just any progression of the Mass Effect Andromeda storyline in the game areas.
Yeah. And then at the very end, they're like, we hope to see you again in the Mass Effect universe. And some could say, well, that's, just them being, nice or whatever. But a lot of people are also saying, like, well, the way they say that, it just seems to indicate that They don't know if there's going to be another one or not.
Yeah, which it's such a shame how Mass Effect Andromeda came out, and I'm not talking about Dirt McDirtface. Well, okay, maybe a little bit of that, but the fact that they spent so long on stuff that they didn't use, some of the kind of the post-mortem of this game is just fascinating. How they spent so much time trying to do procedural generation in a BioWare game and have BioWare level questing in it, and it just didn't work, and they kept going at it until eventually, this is a project that desperately needed corporate oversight, to be perfectly honest. And it's kind of weird to say EA needed to step in and say, no, don't do this.
Yeah. I don't see. I haven't gotten to the ending yet. The middle part of I'm solidly in the middle of the game, and I'm not seeing like the issues with the story that people have raised and all these threads that are ending. But I know that they're coming, so I don't know like how I'm gonna feel about when the game ends. When Mass Effect 3 ended, I wasn't like the happiest about the ending, but for me, the Mass Effect series was all about the journey. Because in a game that's that sprawling, like, obviously they have to bring it down to something at the end. You can't have a million different variations, as cool as that would be, because you can't have all, so many different dialogue and assets and all that stuff. It's just wasted time from a business perspective. So I always made Mass Effect about the journey itself, because I knew eventually it would come down to the type of ending that it had. And that's the feelings that I've had about Andromeda from the start. But
in this case, instead of going on this massive journey, your ship breaks down at the first rest stop and you get towed home.
Well, not only that, but the original Mass Effect series was a trilogy. If Andromeda was going to be a trilogy,
this was planned to be a trilogy as well, wasn't it? Or at least more than one game.
I think it was designed to be like an ongoing, expandable universe, which honestly, the original Mass Effect series created. Regardless of how you end Mass Effect 3. The universe or the galaxy carries on, and there's so much space in literally an entire galaxy to tell so many stories. I think they were trying to I think the main reason they did Andromeda was to get away from the original trilogy, because
they wanted to get away, but they also wanted to just avoid the timeline, because you had a set timeline of major event happens here.
Right. What I wish they would have done is just pick a canon ending. I don't care what the ending is, just pick a canon ending. Set your next game, 100 years in the future, and then you don't have to deal with any of the Shepard stuff. And then you can keep telling stories in this big universe. And the Andromeda thing was one way to do that, sure. But, if they're going to leave the game hanging and not support it, and not continue to try and build this universe, then, what are you going to do about that?
You'll buy the books to find out what the fuck?
I've never read any of the Mass Effect books. I've heard they're good, but I don't have very much time in my life for reading books.
Oh, so you're not a reader.
I like to read books, but, I got most of my Mass Effect story from the game, or the games, and a couple of comics that I've read. I'm still, plugging my way through the Chris Longknife series, so there's 14 or 15 books in that series. I've read 3, so I've got a ways to go. But, it makes me really sad to think that this could be, I almost said swan song, but it's not really that.
Yeah.
Well, the death toll, or the death bells for Mass Effect.
Well, this really shows that you can't just put a IP on really any game and expect it to sell well enough, because this, at the end of the day, is a corporate decision, and I can't blame them for wanting to cut their losses on a game that just isn't going to recoup. They probably did some market research and realized, the DLC, we've pissed off too many people, which kind of feels weird to say with really any game these days, because usually all the DLC is planned out and is pretty far along once it comes out. But I imagine that because Mass Effect Andromeda launched in such a screwed up state that they had to stop all development on DLC to try to fix it, because it was ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, as a person who, can respect a company's decision to do something to, like you said, cut their losses and, not waste resources, I can respect that. But as a fan of the Mass Effect series, I mean, eventually we're going to do our top 10 games of all time. And Mass Effect is on that list for me. I'm not 100% sure how high it's going to be on the list, but I can almost guarantee it's in the top 5, probably top 3. So I'm really, really, really sad to see this go and wish and hope that it comes back. And I mean, hoping for the best, but I've gotten a lot more cynical over the last couple of years, so not really expecting anything. Yeah, that's certainly helped that process along. Yeah, it sucks. It hurts my heart.
What would you think if 5-10 years down the line, another Mass Effect comes out and they completely ignore Mass Effect Andromeda ever existed?
I would be sad about that. I mean, the ending for Mass Effect Andromeda could absolutely totally suck. I don't know. Haven't gotten there yet. Most people seem to think it does. So fair enough. The ending sucks. But there's still a ton of stuff in the beginning and the middle of the game that's great. I've talked at length about how I feel that the character relationships and the things that you do really matter in a way that it didn't feel like they mattered in the original 3 Mass Effect games. So I would be sad if they just completely ignored it. I mean, they don't have to, really dive into it or pull characters from it or anything, but...
Well, also, isn't there a huge time skip between, when Mass Effect happens, or the original trilogy, and Andromeda, there's that travel time?
Yeah, it's a little over 600 years.
So there is, plenty of space to, not even worry about Andromeda.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a ton of time. That's why I said I wish they would just pick a canon ending and then make the next Mass Effect game set 50, 100 years after the Reapers at the end of Mass Effect 3. And just go from there. Because, I mean, they've got so much lore and backstory and such a huge range of diverse characters. There's huge, plot threads that run through all 3 games. And even the resolution of some of them, there's still room to go and dive in on those and keep checking in on the future for them. So there's so much that they could do if they would just set some stuff elsewhere in the galaxy.
But that's the problem, is that I think they're a little leery of touching the Mass Effect 3 ending because of the shitstorm that happened. Rightfully or unrightfully so. I really can't judge that one because I never played it myself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame them for being shy about it.
And it became a meme, for a long time. Pick the flavor of your ending.
Yeah. I personally never understood why people got so upset about it.
I think
it wasn't great. I didn't love it.
I think maybe it's just using the assets, just changing the color. Things felt lazy, particularly on the end of a 3-game series.
Right.
Which I could see that, but I think it's probably a combination of hating on something because it was cool to hate it. I mean, it's not like we've ever done that.
No, never.
No. Put away the corpse of Evolve. But a combination of feeling let down, having Space McGuffin Star Child thing show up pretty much out of nowhere from everything that I understood. I mean, like I said, I never played the game, so I can't really talk about it first person. It's more, what I've heard via just osmosis through the internet, which can easily be wrong.
Yeah, that bit was a little bit odd. I mean, I could take the time to explain it because I've played through the entire series half a dozen times, but we would be here for a long time.
And I wouldn't care.
Yeah, that too.
So I do think there's a lot of factors into why the Mass Effect 3 ending caused such outrage, but also why they wouldn't touch it. And the reason why Andromeda exists is to completely avoid that. And it, on a surface, does make sense story-wise. We're not sure how this is going to go down. Get the fuck out!
Right.
But it's one of those things that you don't hand your flagship titles or your flagship IP to an unmonitored B team.
Yeah.
For everything that Mass Effect Andromeda did well, the fact that they had essentially an 18-month development time is absurd.
Yeah, that game is way too big for that.
And it showed.
Yeah.
And it showed in the most derpiest of factions.
Yeah.
It's... and I'll laugh and, poke fun, but it does make me sad to see, a series that a lot of people loved go down like this. I mean, I did enjoy the first two Mass Effects. It's just I had little interest to play the third, particularly after the outrage of the ending. It just, I killed my interest in it.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And also, the whole thing of, major plot character locked behind the DLC. That sucked. Wasn't too pleased about that either. But, it was mostly the outrage from the DLC that, kind of made me take balls and then, just really didn't care.
Yeah.
Anything else to really talk about here? Do you think that they'll continue on in the future?
The Mass Effect series?
Yeah, and how would you like them to? How would you like to see them take it? How would they reapproach this after? I wouldn't say the Mass Effect series has become toxic, but their last two games in the series have had some major PR problems.
Yeah,
I don't think you could argue against that. But how would they approach this?
I think we'll see it come back. I think they're going to take a break from it, or if they immediately start work on another project, we won't hear about it for a while. The Mass Effect series is one of their flagship series, and I just don't see them in this age of perpetual sequels and universes. I don't see them letting it die. So I'd say we'll see it again in a few years when everybody's kind of had time to forget about this, or at least forget the specifics about it. And it's just like, oh yeah, they had problems with Mass Effect, but they've hid it away for a few years, and so this one will be better. How do I want to see it come back? That's tough. I mean, I'd be okay with pretty much anything as long as it continues to improve upon specifically the relationship aspect of Mass Effect. Because to me, the relationships and the story was always the best part of the game. I mean, things like the combat and things improved from game to game, and Andromeda certainly has made a lot of improvements, even over Mass Effect 3's combat system and the movement system. But I want them to continue to pursue the open world idea, and continue to pursue the relationships. And I would prefer it if they went back to the Milky Way, and, like I said, picked a canon ending, bumped it forward 100 years or so, and continued that storyline. Probably the easiest canon ending to pick would be the destruction of the Reapers, as opposed to the technological cyborg thing, or controlling the Reapers, because then you can completely remove that element from the story and just focus on the various alien races and things. That's what I'd like to see. I wouldn't mind another game set in the Andromeda universe, although
it'd be tough to sell at this point.
Yeah.
It would take quite the effort to build the PR back up for Andromeda. How about a prequel? Because isn't there quite a bit of history with especially conflict between the humans and
the Turians?
Yeah, I was trying to think of what the first race they encountered was. There was essentially misunderstanding that created this big war.
Yeah, the First Contact War. That would probably...
It could be an interesting setting.
Yeah, but I don't think that would be able to stick to the exploration and storytelling aspects of Mass Effect, because the First Contact War in lore was a pretty short war that was basically fought over one system in particular.
Well, I wasn't sure just how big a war it was. I just knew about it.
I mean, it lasted about 3 months in lore, and then all of the other council races showed up, and they were like, whoa, don't attack this alien race called the humans, because, we just discovered them, and they don't know the rules. So, I mean, it might make an interesting, shooter if they try something like a different genre of game set in the Mass Effect universe, which I wouldn't be opposed to either. But the tradition, the Mass Effect BioWare formula, wouldn't work during the First Contact War.
Well, it seemed like they were trying to change up the formula pretty big in Mass Effect Andromeda, so
yeah,
maybe there is room to tinker.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a game being smaller in scope in terms of instead of going across the entire galaxy or this huge region of stars, a game set on a planet. You spend the whole game on a planet, maybe you can fly up to a space station or a moon or something, but a much more localized, down-to-earth story, because that would allow them, I think, to really focus on relationships and some of the more specific aspects in the universe. Because there's a lot of stuff between those 3 games that, even though you see bits and pieces of it, it's just bits and pieces because you're going all over the place, focusing on the big picture. I mean, they could even do some games set during the original Mass Effect trilogy times, focusing on various aspects of the game that Shepard just comes into, does a thing, and then leaves. I mean, you go to something like 20 planets for various story missions between the 3 games. Something could be set after Shepard leaves, what happens to this place after he made these changes or whatever, or she, depending on what your canon ship is.
I think if they have a Shepard show up in another Mass Effect game, they should make it so that you can't really tell gender. Yeah, full helmet perhaps, and seen from a distance.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a Mass Effect story about Captain Anderson. That would be a good prequel for the original Mass Effect trilogy. Because, I mean, he goes on a lot of adventures before you meet him in Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, true. I mean, there's a lot of little nicks and crannies that they can put story in and build a game out of, but...
Yeah.
Even, just smaller scope. That I think that would be a good way to rebuild some PR with this. Yeah, build some... general goodwill, because I could only imagine how burnt a lot of gamers are feeling on this.
Yeah.
Particularly since it seems like they're abandoning the entire Galaxy storyline.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. But I don't think that they'll just completely abandon it forever. I think they'll take a break.
Yeah, I don't think the franchise is gone, but I do think Andromeda is... if it's not dropped completely, it's going to be put on the back burner for a very long time.
Yeah.
And if there is another story in the Andromeda... the Andromeda Galaxy. I keep wanting to say Andromeda Universe, but it doesn't work like that. If they have another game in that setting, they'll probably either briefly mention things that happened in the first game or just ignore completely. It won't be a continuation of that story directly.
Yeah. I mean, they could make another Mass Effect game as a prequel in the Andromeda universe. There's some stuff that happens. The initial ship gets there a year before you do. And there's a huge amount of plot that they just this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Welcome to the universe, or welcome to the galaxy.
Do you think
that's whoa, I want to know about that.
Do you think that's a casualty of the short development time, or inadvertent short development time?
Probably. It feels like they set it up to be something, and then they just hand wave it later. Because you spend quite a bit of time learning about all this stuff, and then you go talk to someone, they're like, actually, just, don't worry about it. We'll deal with it later. It's but wait, I want I want to deal with it. I want to go find out what all this stuff is that happened.
Yeah, a real shame just in general, just how Mass Effect has turned out.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, whenever I get to the end of the game, I'll report on the ending and all that jazz, but I mean, like I said, I'm very solidly in the middle, so it's still going to be a while.
Well, you know what else we're in the middle of? A transition.
Right. Let's move on to Community Corner.
Yeah, our mailbag is empty again.
Wah, wah. We only had a couple of tweets, including answers to the question of the week.
Yep. So let's just do question of the week first. What do you consider a healthy population for a multiplayer game? And Kyle sent us a math equation.
Of course he did.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, I'm going to have to mark this as not a passing grade because he didn't include the Ubisoft fuck-up constant. Yeah, sorry. I'm not even sure how I would say all this.
I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see. He's got 5 times full server times game mode types plus 0.8 full server for most popular mode. I don't exactly know what that means.
42.
Yeah, I'm assuming it just means enough people to fill up several game mode types and servers.
Yeah, sorry, I left my slide rule on my other pants.
Kyle, when you do your homework and tell me what you think about No Man's Sky, you can tell us what you mean by this math equation. I think, in response to the question of the week, that you need to have enough people so that you can find a game relatively quickly at any time of the day. So probably 1,000 to 2,000. It depends on the game.
Especially the size of the game or the size of the individual matches.
Yeah. So smaller, quicker 1v1 style games like, I don't know, hard CCGs or something like that. You can probably get away with a little less, but if you're going to do a team versus team type game, I'd say a minimum of 1,000 players active at all times.
I would say minimum 1,000 off peak.
Yeah.
Because that's well, I mentioned this before, is that I play, this is about my normal playtime for if I was playing a multiplayer game, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. Eastern US, that server population is going to be down. And the only people that are going to be on are either, insomniacs or the no-lifers.
Woohoo!
Yeah, and guess what you are?
Yes.
And
yeah, I agree with that. That was what I was trying to say, like at off peak hours. I just didn't have the right words. So thank you, sir.
Okay, and we technically had 2 tweets, not counting things you did. Chemist. We don't have bugs in our podcast, said Jared, coughing straight into the microphone. Well, technically that's not a bug, that's a virus. That's how you get computer viruses, by the way. And also, Kim has sent us a string of emoticons, and unfortunately, I don't have the Rosetta Stone, so I haven't been able to translate this. And I mostly didn't really care all that much.
I didn't see that tweet.
Let's see if I copy and paste all of these directly into Skype. It only copies 3 of the 5.
Let's see. Orange monkey eagle chicken smiley face. Orange monkey eagle rooster teeth?
Well, doesn't that say minus chicken smiley face? I don't know.
Well,
42.
Well, if it's okay, so here's my guess, Chemist, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. So Rooster Teeth has this thing where it's like Orange Monkey Eagle is supposed to be like the way that you have your brain kill itself. Like it was a joke from one of their podcast episodes like 3 years ago. So that's what I'm guessing. It's Orange Monkey Eagle from Rooster Teeth. Which means kill me? I don't know. That's my guess. I'm an old man.
Oh no, I'm too busy not caring to really get killed by this. Plus, I would have never gotten the reference anyway, so.
Yeah.
Woo.
Okie dokie.
And also, well, since I used the dark theme on TweetDeck, the monkey I just saw the face of, so it kind of looked like a crown to me.
Okay.
Yeah, since it's just a small icon to begin with. So I would have been thrown off even further.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
That is the community corner.
Sweet.
If you wish to contribute to the madness and utterly confuse us, you can email us at vglpodcast@gmail.com or just tweet us, like Chemist did, of random nonsense. VGL Podcast on Twitter.
Indeed. And it's your turn this week to do the thing. So do the thing.
Press the button.
Good enough. Alrighty. Oh, no. Fuck no. I mean, this looks interesting, but it's a horror game.
Probably
like a horrible horror game.
Yeah, probably the same one I got.
Observer?
Yep.
Yeah. No, fuck that. I'm out.
Well, my second one is, well, it's a game that I'm not sure if I would like because it has some mobile-esque elements. Startup Company. There's some people that's been complaining about it having essentially clicker elements. You know, click on everything. And that's what absolutely killed about any interesting goddess for me. Well, that and it being Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, Startup Company looks like
it has potential to be decent, but at the same time, it has me taking pause. But I'll add it nonetheless.
Yeah, it looks like, I think it's Video Game Tycoon or something like that.
Yeah, which is one of those things that Video Game Tycoon I really wanted to like, but oh damn it! It told you absolutely nothing of what was going on.
What the shit?
Well, I think I just got a winner.
What?
Medieval Kingdom Wars.
Alright.
This, rewrite medieval history through bloody siege combat and grand strategy. Yes. So, as soon as I clicked on the damn links at the top, so it took me off our notes page, so there's your link. Terrible name, though, because, it's as generic can be, but it looks interesting. And it is early access game, so we'll see how it goes, but it does look like it's been getting updated pretty regularly.
Yeah. So the trail is on Steam now.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's $15.
Yeah,
People are saying there's no microtransactions in it. But otherwise, it's exactly the same game. What?
Interstellar Transport Company just came up.
Nice. There you go. I'm gonna put it on here. I was alright with the trail on my phone.
Yeah, I played a bit on my phone.
This looks terrible, but I like the name just made me laugh. Hobo Tough Life.
Okay.
City survival RPG where you play as a homeless person and your main goal is to survive. This is a terrible
That's actually
game.
That's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah. Although you're not a hobo if you're just a homeless person.
Yeah. I'm actually not seeing the link on the notes.
Yeah, I haven't put it.
Okay.
Yet.
Well, I got my third game on here. And depending on how, things right now on the previous one. I got Nidhogg 2. It is a very, very, very ugly art style for Nidhogg 2. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I've seen some gameplay footage of it, and it looks a lot better in motion. But it is still very rough,
Yeah.
It does look like they improved the gameplay, though. So there is that going for it. It's just one of those things that, I understand what they're doing. They're trying to make it look like early computer, exaggerated graphics.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why you don't see a lot of games emulate that art style.
Yeah.
And it does look like they've gone to online multiplayer. I believe the original they called was local only, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong on that, though.
I don't know. I don't know much about it. This looks interesting, though. Far the Lone Sails. I'm putting the link in. Yeah. It's some sort of adventure game. It's a post-apocalyptic, but it's got an interesting looking art style. And you're trying to keep your car thing, whatever this is, operational as you drive across the wasteland and explore and just try and survive.
That's a very interesting art style. It's not going to be out for a long time, though.
No, it doesn't come out, according to this, until 2018. But it looks neat. I'm definitely putting that on my wish list. And that's my queue. That's my last game.
Yeah, I still have quite a few on my queue. I'm looking at this one. This is something that kind of it's not really a pet peeve, but it's more of a. Am I an uncultured person? Because you'll see, this game is based on the bestseller and novel I'd never heard of.
What's the novel?
The Pillars of the Earth. I'm blanking on it. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
What's the game called? Pillars of the Earth?
Ken Folder's Pillars of the Earth. I mean, it looks like a very interesting point-and-click adventure. Now, I'll put the link down.
Folder's Pillars of the Earth.
Yeah, looks very interesting. But, yeah, it's just, I'm looking at this and thinking, am I supposed to know this novel?
I've heard of this book. I've never read it. I have a friend who's read it, and he's told me I should read it.
According to this, it's only the first book, and the other two are supposed to be available soon, right? And will be part of a season pass. Which, the main game is the season pass. So, and that's something else that I kind of take pause with as well. That's something I should have thought of was incomplete episodic games.
Yeah.
Because I have more than one that has, first episode out and either just fell apart or, never, just the dev moved on to another project. It has some very interesting art, though. It has kind of a sort of a flat art style, but very detailed.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of shadows going on. I think that's why everything looks kind of flat, especially on faces. Interesting, though.
Yeah, it looks neat.
All right, well, let me quickly go through. Oh, I got the trail. Don't really care about that. Game that has its name in some sort of kanji.
Okay.
Let's see. A game that has all or most of its screenshots just kind of blurred out. Half a page to see. Obviously from some sort of cutscene. Oh, there's great esports manager that I mentioned before. Oh, and look, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. Wow, that is rated very, very poorly. I want to see why. Let's see. Oh, they added supply drops and people are pissed. And yeah, that's my Discovery queue.
Sweet. Well, with Discovery queue out of the way, that means it's time for the portion of the podcast where I go first and tell you about my stuff. Divinity catching up. Still working on a couple of projects on my own. I was intending to do a whole bunch of work on Sunday, and then Katie and I both just had a day where we were like, yep, fuck it. So I didn't get any rendering or anything done because we were just like, fuck it. And had a really relaxed day, which was nice. But hopefully I'll get some more rendering done, and you'll see some more of my projects soon. And if you want to go see them, on my YouTube channel. You can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so by following at JMA4707. As you all know, I tweet about many different kinds of things, political and not. This past week, I've tweeted quite a bit, particularly yesterday, about the eclipse, because it was awesome.
Shit got dark, yo.
It did. It was cool. And then if you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. I really want to play Paladins this week, I'm not going to lie, but I think I'm going to hold off on that because of our next game club stuff. And then once we decide, then I'll decide when we're going to play Paladins. I really liked Paladins. I was surprised by how much I liked Paladins once I tried it. But I'll fix the multiplayer list. That was one of the things I was going to intend on doing Sunday, was refixing the schedule. I'll do that before. I'm going to have some time at work where I have nothing to do tomorrow. I'll do it during that time. And then if you want to be friends with me on Steam, my Steam username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests. I would love for some people, too, to chat me up about Game of Thrones. I'd love to talk to someone some more about that. And yeah, that's me.
Steam?
I said that. If you want to be friend on Steam.
I must have zoned out then.
Must have.
I guess it's whenever you talked about Game of Thrones, it's like, oh, well, here we go again. Well, what?
I just want people to talk to me about Game of Thrones.
Well, the password for this week, if you wish to let them know, about Game of Thrones, is Waddle.
That's good.
Waddle.
Before you move on to your stuff, look at what I just saw on Reddit.
Oh boy. They're trying to make it exist, but I wouldn't count on it.
No.
Oh, so my channel, pretty much everything's holding steady right now. All three Let's Play series are in a somewhat mature position now. Van Helsing is solidly in the second act. Don't know how many acts it has, but it still is underwhelming a combat as it was in the first. I'm planning on what to replace it with, and I have a few interesting ideas. But we'll have to see how that goes down. RimWorld is in the double digits again, and we have our first winner going on in this week, and some Blood on the Snow. Who knows whose that is? And of course, Divinity having a little bit of an odd week, because this is the week for my channel, at least. I'm not sure how far Jared is behind, where we had a long recording that we had to break up, and I came up with an interesting idea for it. That Jared approved of, so that doesn't bode well, actually.
I did. It was really good.
And let's see, Sunday Sampler, not really sure what I'm going to do for that this week. I actually have an idea of maybe going back to the early access games that I've covered before and for a second look at them, particularly ones I liked. But we'll have to see if I get anything decent before I make my final choice there. And of course, this podcast appears there as well, Fridays at noon, when the podcast usually comes out, or thereabouts. On my channel, it's a nice round number. On the RSS feed, not so much. Just to annoy Jared. And you can find all of that over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or if you wish to see me tweet about somewhat random things, yesterday was me tweeting a lot of stuff about the eclipse and random nonsense, and a rant about the local school system not letting kids actually view the eclipse because, can't have them liable, right?
Absolutely not.
Who cares that, it may get the children interested in science so they don't go into the fucking coal mines. But no, I'm not bitter. I'm not angry.
Which we discovered earlier actually produce more radiation than nuclear power plants.
What, you didn't think I knew about coal?
I just didn't realize that was a thing. Trust but verify.
But you can find me tweeting over at Gaming with CR. And, well, as I said just a little bit ago, our email is vglpodcast@gmail.com, where you can send voicemails, letters, gaming-related topics. Random emojis could also go to VGL Podcast on the Twitter. If you are stopped to pay for this absolute nonsense, you could head over to patreon.com/VGL Podcast for our Patreon campaign. If you wish to see the show notes and find the link to the Carmen Sandiego cartoon, assuming that I could remember to link that, you can find it over at vglpodcast.podbean.com. And you could also find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and who knows where else. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin MacLeod, and our Discovery Key music is Doobly Doo, also by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com.
And as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
Yeah, watch out for that coal ash. Shit's radioactive, yo.
Yes.
And.
Bye-bye.
Does that mean I have a higher chance of mutating? Can I get a cool power? Oh shit, my power is just being better.
Your power is anger. You've already gotten
very tired.